What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. Dressrosa become Doflamingo. 1 BD. Chapter 1 Dressrosa, Doflamingo. Advertisement. Chapter 1 Dressrosa, Doflamingo. New World. Dressrosa. After the rule of the Liku clan, Dressrosa ushered in its new owner 3 years ago. No, to be more precise, it is to welcome back its original king. 800 years ago, this clan was the original royal clan of Dressrosa. Only later, when the world government was established, the clan moved to the Holy Land Mariajoy, which gave the Liku clan a chance to become a royal clan. This family is called Donquixote. Today, the one who rules Dressrosa is the last king of the Donquixote clan. Donquixote Doflamingo. Speaking of Doflamingo, people's first impression of him is that he is a vicious pirate, a powerful shichibukai, ambitious, arrogant and inexhaustible. The world calls him Heavenly Yaksha. In the dark world, Doflamingo has a more resounding title, Joker. Whether it is the earth or the underground world, Donquixote Doflamingo is famous, and everyone knows it. But what the world knows is only the surface of Doflamingo. Few people know what kind of person the real Doflamingo is. And at this moment, even the top cadre of Donquixote family who knows Doflamingo best, I am afraid I don't know who Doflamingo is, because I turned into the Doflamingo in the pirate world. Inside the palace of Dressrosa. In front of the tall floor-to-ceiling mirror. Shu Xin looked at the person in the mirror, not knowing what it was like. Casual blonde, wearing red sunglasses, wearing a flamingo coat like a ball of fire, an open thin shirt reveals angular abs and chest muscles, and a red and white cropped trousers on his lower body, with sharp corners under his feet. Red leather shoes. Who else can this arrogant dress be besides Donquixote Doflamingo in One Piece? Shu Xin, who had seen One Piece in the previous life, naturally knew who Doflamingo was. After accepting the memory of the original body, Shu Xin knew well about Doflamingo's childhood experiences and previous experiences. Killing his own father with his own hands is really a cruel man. Advertisement. Shu Xin silently looked at the self in the mirror. Now, no one can empathize with Doflamingo more than him. However, Shu Xin still disagrees with many of Doflamingo's previous practices, such as father killing. Although Shu Xin never considers himself a good person, he still has his own principles in dealing with things. If it was him, Huo would be kept. Shu Xin wanted to know what kind of expression would the once noble Donquixote Honogu look like when he killed his wife because of his naive thoughts, causing the two young children to suffer so much hardships and even to be killed. In fact, Shu Xin's approach may be even more cruel to the kind-hearted Huo than Doflamingo's direct killing of his father. Ha ha, Shu Xin let out a deep laughter that was difficult to understand. At this moment, he had completely taken over the new identity of Doflamingo. After all, compared to Shu Xin, who was just a trove of life in his previous life, crossing into Doflamingo is undoubtedly 1,000 times better. Ding. Suddenly, with a ding in his mind, Dover, hereafter referred to as Dover, was overjoyed, knowing that the special system of the Traverser was coming. A minute later, Dover rubbed his chin. This system is extremely simple, and its function is to increase the cultivation of all attributes. You only need to bless the system aura on someone, and the cultivation speed will be hundreds of times faster than before. In addition, there are various other effects of increasing cultivation. Of course, the system aura can also be blessed to objects, such as a room, which can also speed up the cultivation of people in the room, but the effect is far inferior to that of blessing to a single person. However, the halo blessing cannot be permanent and has a time limit. You must complete the tasks issued by the system to get more training time. There is only one mission issued by the system, and that is to expand the territory. Every time the territory is expanded to double the original, the system will reward 1 month of cultivation time, and if it does not double, it will be converted into the corresponding number of days in proportion. In addition, unknown oceans and deserted islands, and territorial systems that cannot be controlled stably are denied. Such a task is just what I want. Dover smiled slightly. Now that he has come to this world, wouldn't he come here for nothing if he doesn't do a big business? However, although the pirate world has many islands, large islands are basically occupied by the world government, powerful pirates, or a certain country. If they expand unscrupulously, they are likely to get caught up in even Dover. Feel the troublesome tricky. How to expand and where to expand requires careful consideration. After all, the strength is still not enough. In the world of pirates, the winner is king, and the loser is like an ant. The hypocritical world government is filled with countless ferocious pirates across the sea. Everything in this world depends on its strength. Although Dover is now Shichibukai, the king of Dressrosa, he has a network of underground world connections all over the sea, but it is far from enough to see the world government and 4 emperors standing on the top. Advertisement. Dover's position on his own strength is the upper and middle reaches of Shichibukai. Facing the emperor of the 4 emperors group, he can barely fight against each other, but once he meets the top powerhouses like 4 emperors admiral or Garp Rayleigh, he can only run away. For the sake of it. Fortunately, when the system was opened, the novice spree rewarded a month of cultivation time, and Dover immediately decided to retreat for a month. Within a month, no matter who it is, no one is allowed to enter this room. Yes, Lord King. After the soldiers guarding the door were startled, they quickly took their orders. Boom. The door was closed tightly. A girl with light green wavy hair, Golden pupils, heavy glasses, white skin, and a graceful figure also heard Dover's command and walked over in surprise. Master Monet. The guarding soldiers hurriedly saluted the girl, who was Monet the Logia Snow Fruit ability. At this time, Monet's hands and feet hadn't been transformed into a birdman's form by Luo, with slender fingers and shiny cardamom toes, which looked extremely beautiful. But the soldiers did not dare to look at Monet. They all knew that this beautiful girl who was as beautiful as an angel, but the elite killer among the cadres of Donquixote family, was the key figure to subvert the Liku clan 3 years ago. You, go and call a team of soldiers to guard here. Monet pointed to a guard, who hurried to call someone, not dare to have any extra nonsense. Monet looked at the closed door, his eyes as if he could penetrate the door panel, and saw the man inside for whom she devoted all her heart. Young master, no matter who it is, Monet will not let him disturb you. In the original book, Monet gave his life to Doflamingo without any regrets. Her loyalty and piety to Dover are undoubtedly ranked first. Just now Dover's tone made Monet faintly feel that the next month is extremely important to the young master. Although she called an extra team of soldiers, she was worried that these soldiers might not have the guts to stop the highest cadres of the family like Territorial and Diamante. Therefore, Monet decided to stay here by herself. Inside the house, Dover devoted himself to cultivation. With the blessing of the system's aura, he clearly felt that his cultivation speed had increased exponentially, and even the bottlenecks of cultivation that had been difficult to break through in the past were easily broken with the help of the system. In a blink of an eye, Dover was immersed in the pleasure of strength growth. Chapter 2 King, Absolute Authority. Advertisement. Chapter 2 King, Absolute Authority. Sister, I haven't seen the young master for a month, so let me go. No, the young master has orders, no one can disturb him. HMPH, last time I came here and you said you would have to wait for a month, but now 1 month has passed. Anyway, I just can't go in for the time being. A hint of worry flashed in Monet's eyes, but thinking of the solemn tone of the young master's order a month ago, Monet still blocked it firmly. Talking to Monet is her younger sister, Sugar, who has the ability to eat the fruit of childishness, and has kept her appearance at 10 years old. The Sugar in the pink bear coat pursed his mouth in dissatisfaction, and his little finger slammed into the purple grapes in the basket, and then swallowed the grapes on the little fingertips in one bite, as if dissatisfied with my sister bent on the grape body. After finally settling the childish Sugar, Monet did not breathe a sigh of relief when a cold voice sounded next to him. Hey, Monet, know who you are. I am the highest cadre of the family. Monet turned to the speaker, and his expression became respectful. Master Territorial, Monet definitely does not mean to disrespect you. It's just that the young master is doing very important things and must not be disturbed. It seems that even in the face of Territorial, Monet is ready to stick to the end. Territorial stomped his stick to the ground angrily, causing 2 noses to sway in the air. What is important to Dover? Why don't I, the top cadre, know? Territorial was one of the first 4 people to follow Dover. Compared with the arrogant Diamante, Pika with well-developed limbs and simple mind, and Virgo, who left the family early to work as an undercover agent in Marine, Territorial I think I have the closest relationship with Dover among all people. Now, a junior who was only adopted by Dover a few years ago, behaved more than he knew, and even dared to defy himself. How to keep Territorial from getting angry? Just as Territorial was about to teach Monet, the door opened swiftly, and a slightly lazy voice that made everyone outside the door dare not have the slightest negligence came out. What's the matter? I just took a nap, and it's so lively outside. The sunlight coming in from the windows of the house shone on the man who walked out slowly, as if he had covered the man with a golden coat. It is difficult to look directly, like a god descending from the sky. Advertisement. This is our king. Territorial shuddered suddenly, as if going back to many years ago, when he first saw Dover as a child release conquerors. At that time, the 4 of them all bowed down to Dover, who possessed the overlord temperament. The king. Our king. Territorial cried out seemingly unconsciously, and couldn't help kneeling to Dover as he did many years ago. King. Following Territorial's kneeling, the surrounding soldiers, Maid, Monet, and Sugar all knelt down together. Dover looked at the people crawling under his feet, paused when he saw Monet, and finally his eyes fell on Territorial. In fact, Dover had already finished his training yesterday. The reason he didn't rush out was because he was thinking about the current situation and the next action plan. After all, as a traverser, he has both system tasks to complete and the vision of a prophet. In addition, his strength is even more different than before. Many originally planned deployments, plans and even rules naturally need to be made a lot. Change. With Dover's uncompromising prestige in Dressrosa, these changes can naturally be implemented without any discount at the lower level, but at the higher level, especially the highest cadre level, I am afraid that there will be no small resistance. Dover didn't want the decree to go on, but there were heavyweight cadres who violated the rules, and things were difficult to handle at that time. If you don't kill it, it will damage your prestige, and you are even more afraid that other cadres will follow suit. If you kill it, it will chill other family members and cause you to lose your power. Therefore, Dover spent a considerable amount of his brain power on how to rectify the internal affairs. Coincidentally, when Dover heard the dispute between Monet and Territorial outside the door, Dover's heart moved, and this was the scene he deliberately created before him. Seeing Territorial, who was kneeling on the ground, shaking with excitement, Dover knew the effect was much better than he had imagined. Although Territorial has always regarded himself as an old predecessor, and even has a psychological advantage when facing him, there is no doubt about his loyalty. What do you do on your knees? Dover walked forward with a smile and helped Toripal. We are family, and the family's future business will depend on you, Toripal. The young master is serious. Toripal stood up, and his name changed from the previous, Dover, to the same, young master, as Monet and others. Dover smiled more brilliantly, let go of Toripal, and let the rest of the people get up, seemingly casually pointed at Monet, who bowed his head and stood with his hands, and called out, Monet. Yes, what is the young master's command? Monet looked up in surprise, and his golden pupils flashed with respect and admiration almost sacred. It's just that compared to a month ago, Monet was visibly haggard. After all, staying here this month, she hardly rested. Advertisement. Monet, except for special circumstances in the future, you won't have to go out to perform tasks. Come and be my full-time secretary. Yes. After Monet subconsciously agreed, he realized that something was wrong, and he was instantly stunned on the spot. Why, not willing? Yes. Monet nodded hurriedly, but after Yu Guang glanced at Toripal, Chao's face couldn't help but hesitate. She just offended Master Toripal. According to the usual practice, in this situation, no matter who is right or wrong, the inferior will have to make sacrifices and be punished. Monet has long been prepared to accept the punishment, but now. Dover seemed to know why Monet hesitated, and said indifferently, so, is there anyone who disagrees with this decision? As soon as the voice fell, Toripal, as a figure who has been in the ocean for decades, could not know that Dover was deliberately suppressing his prestige. But Toripal was not only not angry, but ecstatic. Dover, no, it's the young master. Finally, he is going to establish his absolute authority at the highest cadre level. In Toripal's cognition, Wang is the existence of everything, even the benefactor and family members can't disobey or question him at all. Toripal only felt that although Dover did not have the usual arrogant posture at this time, there was a more ordinary Haki in the ordinary. He almost couldn't breathe because of Haki's depression, and it made him feel fascinated. The king's decision is absolute, no one can oppose it. Toripal bowed to the ground again, kowtow loudly. Dover's expression was calm, but his heart was loose. Toripal, who was the oldest and the most difficult to deal with, was settled, and the other three top cadres were easy to handle. Of course, with Toripal so acquainted, Dover naturally couldn't help but express it. He punished Monet appropriately, which was considered to be all the face of Toripal. Toripal's heart was even more moved. The stick and sweet jujube has always been the only way for the superior. Asterisk. Chapter 3 New Order issued. Advertisement. Chapter 3 New Orders issued. Just as everyone was shocked at Toripal's total submission to Dover, a crisp child's voice sounded. Full-time secretary, content and stay with young master. Then I also want to be young master's full-time secretary, okay. Sugar jumped up to Dover, grabbed Dover's big hand, and dangling to act like a baby. Regarding the deep meaning of the matter in front of her, Sugar didn't bother to think about it. Her careful thoughts only regarded Dover as the closest person, and the second relative was Sister Monet. Dover was amused by Sugar, and clicked on her cute little nose and smiled. Full-time secretary, do you know what to do? This. Granulated Sugar thought for a while, it was the first time I heard this word, the ghost knew what to do. I don't care, I just want to be with the young master and let the disgusting Toripal die. As the most important person in the family, Sugar has been personally protected by Toripal. Toripal, who was covered in mucus, was dissatisfied with Sugar for a long time, and the two often quarreled. Before the change, Toripal would definitely scold a smelly boy when he heard Sugar's go to death, but now he wouldn't say a word before the young master's order. Faced with Sugar's unreasonable harassment, Dover felt very cute and rubbed his cute bear's head. Well, you don't have to stay in the cadre tower all the time, you can come to me at any time. Really? Granule's eyes widened in surprise, she thought the young master would not agree at all. After all, her job is to make a steady stream of coolie toys for the family. Of course it's true. Dover nodded surely, understanding Sugar's doubts. Yeah, Sugar jumped up happily and gave Dover a big kiss on the cheek. Monet silently watched his sister and the young master acting like a baby, and his heart was full of warmth. Such a scene would never be imagined by their sisters in their lonely and helpless childhood. Everything they had was given by the young master. For the sake of the young master, it doesn't matter if you give your life. The wide palace hall. The walls are carved with ancient patterns, telling that the hall has at least 1,000 years of history. Advertisement. This was built during the reign of the Donquixote family. At the far north of the hall, on the high throne, sat a young, haughty, tall and forbidding figure. His Royal Highness, the soldiers, cadres and famous people of Dressrosa who were called up all know that it is their King Donquixote Doflamingo. Hello, do you feel that His Majesty the King seems a bit different from before? Indeed, it seems even scarier. Go, the dog can't spit out ivory. Obviously, yes, it's even more powerful anyway. Didn't you see that no one of the highest cadres in the family dared to speak? That was not the case before the Tingwei. When you say this, it seems that there is such a thing. The top cadre is at the forefront of the crowd, except for Wilgo, who is undercover at Marine, and the other three are all on the list. The three of them held their breath, not as casual as they used to be. Seeing Dover for the first time in a month, Diamante and Pika, like Toripal, were all overwhelmed by Dover's compelling Haki, and had nothing to do with Dover's absolute authority to establish himself. Opinion. Monet, who else hasn't arrived? Dover leaned on the throne, speaking with a trace of laziness. Everything went smoother than he thought. After Toripal, there was no objection in the top cadres, and the cadres below were the only ones looking forward to it. Monet quickly changed his identity and changed into a black tight-fitting skirt. According to Sugar, Dover secretly told Dover that, "My sister wears this way to be more solemn and to reflect the majesty of the young master." Dover can only smile helplessly. How did Monet know that the black tight-fitting skirt outlines her waist more slender, and also sets off the stalwart of her chest, almost touching Dover's face when talking to Dover? Enlightened young master, in addition to Mr. Virgo, Miss Violet has not yet returned from performing tasks outside, and Baby 5. Monet pushed the thick glasses on the snow-white bridge of his nose with one hand, and held a copy in the other. File, I heard that the villain in the neighboring town proposed to her and is preparing for the wedding. Dover nodded slightly. Monet glanced at his sister Sugar, who was sitting next to Dover happily eating grapes, and the young master teased her cute little face with his big hands from time to time, causing Sugar to shake her head in dissatisfaction. The corner of Monet's mouth could not help but bend slightly, and then quickly stopped, regaining solemnity. Seeing that Dover had no more instructions, Monet bowed back, walked to the steps, unfolded the documents in his hand, and began to read the highest order of King Dressrosa. Advertisement. The approximate content of the instruction is as follows. 1. The status of all members of the family is higher than that of ordinary citizens. This was also the default in the past. But the instruction also added a layer of restraint to family members, that is, not to infringe the people without reason, otherwise severe punishment will not be neglected. 2. All Dressrosa nationals except senior cadres must wear an identity medal, which includes name, photo, address, position, etc. This command obviously has strong celestial characteristics. This is what Dover specifically emphasized. He doesn't want Dressrosa to be easily invaded by the Luluo Alliance or other enemies like the original book under his own control. The identity of the Celestial Dynasty is proof. It is undoubtedly a good way to prevent it. 3. All Dressrosa citizens can prove their abilities in front of at least one family cadre in any way and in any form, and then they can join the family and become a member of Donquixote family. 4. All Dressrosa nationals must pay taxes every year in accordance with the law, or become hired workers to serve the family. This family member can be automatically exempted. The various directives involve all aspects, including vigorously developing the agricultural trade industry, increasing military training, and so on. There are also instructions that only the core members of the family know, such as stopping the boring trick of turning half of the people into toys. As for doing so, it will result in a shortage of sufficient labor for the ongoing underground arms business, but Dover is not worried, because soon, Dressrosa will usher in sufficient free labor. But even the instructions announced on the surface are enough to make people feel turbulent. It is the first time everyone has heard of many nouns. On the one hand, they feel that they are novel, and on the other hand, they are a little frightened. I don't know what the purpose of the king is for doing this. Only some people of insight can see that although the king's instructions are far from being as kind as the former King Liku, they are quite beneficial to the overall development of the country. There is only one thing that everyone clearly understands: Dressrosa will change drastically from now on. Soon after Monet finished reading, Dover got up and left the hall. As soon as Fang left, there was an immediate sensation in the hall. People couldn't help but boiled and discussed violently with those around them. Dover didn't seem to hear the louder and louder sound of the rear hall, and said to the secretary Monet who was behind him, "Go and call the pirate inside, yes, Bellamy." Because Bellamy admired Doflamingo so much, he went to Dressrosa to make offerings almost every year, but he didn't see Dover several times. This time, he caught up with the opportunity. "It's really noisy, just turn them all into toys." The granulated sugar sticking around like a brown candy, covering the ears of the bear on the hat, said angrily. Dover squeezed the sugary little face, no matter what the people in the hall thought or how they talked. He and Doflamingo's instructions must be executed meticulously. This is something everyone in Dressrosa knows very well. Asterisk. Chapter 4: The weak can't even decide how they die. Advertisement. Chapter 4: The weak can't even decide how they die. Bellamy crawled on the ground religiously, Jenin shaking slightly all over his body. Finally saw that adult again. From a very young age, Bellamy worshipped Doflamingo. He despised the ignorant people in his hometown and the innocent pirates in the sea who desperately pursued illusory dreams. In his mind, only Don Quixote Doflamingo is a real pirate. Therefore, when he met Doflamingo in a tavern a few years ago, Bellamy resolutely led his men to join the Doflamingo pirate group. Since then, his pirate ship has been flying the Don Quixote family logo. This is Bellamy's proud life of glory. However, Bellamy did not know that Doflamingo never regarded him as a member of the family, and from the beginning to the end, he used it as a tool that could be discarded at will. "Your name is Bellamy, right?" There was a faint voice from above. Bellamy had never heard such a gentle voice from Lord Doflamingo, and he was so excited for a while. "Yes, yes." Bellamy's face flushed, and she stammered. "Such a big man, but stupid like a toy. I really don't know what young master is looking for such a person." The sugar sitting next to Dover glanced at Bellamy below, stuffed full of grapes. Little Mouth grumbled. Monet, who drew Bellamy to the side, couldn't help but grin, and then cast an annoying look at Granule, blaming her for talking too much. Bellamy heard it too, his face flushed even more. Phew, ha ha ha. Dover let out a deep laugh. "Bellamy, you were slapped." Bellamy clenched his fists and did not get Doflamingo's approval, which was the most unacceptable thing for him. Master Doflamingo, please allow me to prove my strength. Prove yourself. Dover's eyes were interesting. Well, then I will give you a chance. If you can beat my secretary Monet, I believe in your strength. Thank you, my lord, I must let you down. Bellamy was overjoyed. He stood up and looked at Monet, who was walking towards him. Although you brought me to see Master Doflamingo, I should have thanked you, but I'm sorry, I won't be merciful in the next battle. Monet, who was in a black dress and skirt, was very charming. She covered her mouth and smiled. You don't have to worry about others at all, Mr. Bellamy. Since it is the order of the young master, please show your strongest strength. Bellamy snorted, and it seemed that the whole little woman who seemed to be weak in front of her, like the little demon next to the adult, looked down upon herself. Advertisement. Bellamy secretly decided that even if it would annoy the adult, he would let this little woman know how good he was. Hey! Bellamy let out a low growl, squatted down with his legs, and began to accumulate strength. He is a spring fruit capable person. The longer the charge time is, the more violent the next attack will be. Now, I said young master, sister won't kill that guy, right? Sugar's delicate fingers put a grape into Dover's mouth, and said nonchalantly. Who knows? Dover smiled casually, opened his mouth and swallowed the grapes from his mouth, feeling a surprisingly smooth touch on his lips. Sugar retracted his finger, inserted another grape, and put it into his mouth, and then looked bored at the battle below. Said it was a battle, but in fact, Monet had been standing still and didn't move. On the other hand, Bellamy used the spring force to jump up and down like a rabbit. However, his attack fell on Monet, but all penetrated the past without exception. What the hell is going on? Bellamy's forehead was covered with cold sweat, no longer the aura. At this time, a gentle female voice sounded in his ears. I am a Logia snow fruit capable person, and your attack has no effect on me. Bellamy was stunned for a moment, and at the same time, a slender jade hand was printed 1 centimeter in front of his chest at the same time. Boom! An icy wind and snow burst from the palm of Jade's palm, and Bellamy's strong body suddenly flew out, vomiting blood. However, the pain of the body is far from the despair of Bellamy's heart. He was defeated. In front of the most respected Doflamingo, he was easily defeated. Understood, Bellamy. Seeing Bellamy who fell to the ground struggling to get up, Dover showed no sympathy in his eyes. You have no ability to prove your strength. You and the naivety you despise childish pirates, there is no difference. Dover got up and walked slowly towards Bellamy, whose eyes were increasingly desperate. By the way, I can tell you one thing. You are not an opponent of Monet. In this sea, you are completely out of rank. In other words, you, Bellamy, are actually just rubbish. Every word of Dover pierced Bellamy's heart like a steel needle. On the basis of such a rubbish you, why do you get on Lousy's boat? Advertisement. Dover stopped and looked coldly at Bellamy, who was struggling to sit up at his feet, with a cold wicked smile on his face. Answer me, Bellamy. Bellamy trembled. By me, for my loyalty to you. Faithful. Dover laughed loudly. That is indeed a rare thing, but in this age, loyalty without strength is the least valuable thing. Bellamy, don't you understand? I don't know when. Several invisible threads wrapped around Bellamy's limbs and pulled it into the air. Dover moved his fingers lightly, and the thread that was harder than a steel wire slowly tightened. What? Bellamy let out a scream. The weak can't even decide how to die, Bellamy yo. The line is getting tighter and tighter. Dover made a soft huh, staring at Bellamy, who bit his teeth to prevent him from screaming. He nodded slightly in his heart. It seemed that this person was indeed a useful material. Of course Dover didn't really want to kill Bellamy, let alone make it boring. Dover needs Bellamy to do something for him, but Bellamy seems to him to be too weak at this time, especially since he has no real knowledge of his own strength, so Dover decided to give it in advance. A lesson that Bellamy won't understand until 5 years later, that is, Bellamy's defeat by Luffy in 5 years. Please, give me another chance. Lord Doflamingo. Enduring the pain that penetrated into the bone marrow, Bellamy squeezed out a beast-like growl from between his teeth. Patter. Bellamy fell to the ground. Dover released the thread in his hand. Very good resolution. But Bellamy, it's not enough to say it. You must have results to prove yourself. I heard that your pirate group is still in East Blue, so let's do it in East Blue. In the name of Donquixote, occupy all the places in East Blue that are not under the jurisdiction of Marine. After that, Dover took Monet and Sugar and turned and left. I will never let you down again. Lord Doflamingo. Bellamy was the only one left, screaming for his orders, his nose and tears were all over his face, and he didn't care about it. Dizzy, I found that the cover has been changed to a smaller size, and the system hasn't changed it back yet. Ask for a ticket, flowers and comfort. Chapter 5 At this moment, Dover's strength. Advertisement. Chapter 5 At this moment, Dover's strength. Young master, does it really matter if such an important matter is handed over to the Bellamy pirates? On the way back to the bedroom, Monet asked worriedly. The task that the young master had just given Bellamy was undoubtedly a military action, and Monet obviously did not trust Bellamy's ability. East Blue is the weakest sea area in the 4 seas. With Bellamy's strength, as long as you don't provoke Marine and those hidden monsters, nothing will happen. Dover looked deep. East Blue is his future destination. Bellamy, just upon he laid out in advance, is also a kind of temptation. Although East Blue is said to be the weakest in the world, it is the protagonist's luck. According to the original work, both generations of One Piece were born in East Blue. Dover chose East Blue as the place to conquer in the future, which is also an important reason. Speaking of the current East Blue, two people have to be mentioned. One is a Marine hero, Monkey D. Garp, whose strength is still unknown. One is the Golden Lion, who is known as the existence of the three legendary pirates along with Roger and Whitebeard. Since escaping from Impel Grand Prison more than 10 years ago, direct sales have disappeared. Only Dover, who has seen the theater version, knows that this person should be hidden above East Blue. Although Golden Lion was defeated by Luffy in third gear in the theater version, Dover would not naively think that Golden Lion is really that easy to deal with. The strength of Garp and Golden Lion can be said to be the ceiling of the pirate world. Dover wants to conquer East Blue, and these two are the biggest obstacle. It should be said that a month ago, Dover thought and would not want to be an enemy of these two people, but now Dover's mouth is slightly tick, his strength is not the same. 1 month of cultivating under the blessing of the system aura is equivalent to 8 years of cultivating outside, and the results obtained far exceeded Dover's initial expectations. First, Conqueror's haki has been greatly improved, especially the armed color and Conquerors. Earlier, the haki that Torpal, Diamante and others felt in Dover was far more than before, which Dover inadvertently revealed. Advertisement. According to Dover's own estimation, even if his current haki is still far behind 4 Emperor's Admiral, it will not be too far behind. Secondly, in terms of fruit ability, not only have all the previous moves have been strengthened, Dover is also developing several powerful new moves. Third, Dover's physical strength, speed, strength and even resilience, etc., have all been greatly increased. The above 3 points are Dover's daring to covet East Blue's backing. However, Dover is not a fool who is arrogant when he has the strength. He needs a more detailed plan to seek East Blue. Seeing that the young master didn't change his mind, Monet stopped talking. She is a smart woman. Although it is the first time to be a secretary, she knows what to say and what not to say. It is her only responsibility to serve the young master. When they arrived at the bedroom, a row of beautiful maids dressed in cool clothes stepped forward to serve Dover to sleep in peace. Monet pulled up the sugar and was about to retreat. Unexpectedly, the sugar broke away from her hand, jumped onto the big bed at Dover enough to sleep 5 or 6 people, covered the quilt, only revealed a cute little head, and pouted. I don't want to go, I want to sleep with the young master today. Monet was shocked, and hurriedly stepped forward to pull up the sugar, but the sugar buried his entire body in the golden silk quilt. Monet was extremely helpless, so he had to look at the young master with anxious eyes. Dover was also amused by Sugar's behavior, and he waved his hand indifferently. Forget it, let her stay here tonight. Yeah, long live the young master. Granulated Sugar immediately poked his head out again, cheered, and then swaggered to instruct a maid to help her get a new basket of grapes. Seeing that the young master was accustomed to sugar, Monet had no choice but to withdraw by himself, but he sighed slightly in his heart. Although the young master's mind has become more elusive, he is getting better and better with the people around him. My sisters really don't know how to repay the young master. In fact, Monet was wrong. Dover's goodness is only relative to the few people he absolutely trusts. In the hearts of most family members, Dover felt more terrifying and awe. When Dover lay on the bed, the tender and soft body of the sugar immediately pressed against him and slipped into his arms. Advertisement. Dover finally realized Monet's helplessness just now. Sugar is really childish. However, Dover did not feel uncomfortable, but felt a touch of warmth that he had never experienced before. In his previous life, how much he wanted to have such a sticking sister. With this kind of warmth, Dover embraced the sugar, and quickly fell asleep at ease. The new decree was quickly issued across the country, and no matter how people talked about it, Wang's order must be implemented immediately. In an instant, Dressrosa started a full-blown restructuring up and down. Dover did not take possession of the family members and still did not change their nature and harmed the people, and was killed on the spot by Torpal as a typical example, nor did he take care of a certain town's heroic intent to use bribes to avoid taxation, and Pika stoned him. Squeeze, and all the family wealth will go to the treasury. Dover hasn't taken care of these various processes, all he wants is the result. At this moment, in the palace chamber, the 3 highest cadres of the family are reporting the results of the past half-month to Dover. Young master, the rules you set really work. Torpal said. Through the medal of identity, we have caught a lot of enemy spies, and there are more than a dozen of Marines. HMPH, those Marines who do not live or die are really hard-mouthed, they are almost tortured to death and refuse to say that they are Marine. On the side, Diamante said bitterly. The fact that so many Marine spies had been mixed in the country made him feel very shameless. Pika's shrill voice sounded. They are afraid that we will ask Sengoku, damn it's Marine. Listening to the verbal criticism of Marine by the 3 top officials, Dover didn't take it seriously. Although he is Shichibukai, Marine, with Sengoku as the marshal, has never assured him. It is not a surprise to send a spy to monitor him. No, Dover also sent a spy to join Marine, and it has become Marine Vice Admiral. Those Marine. Dover thought for a while, and said, send someone to send a letter to Sengoku, saying that 100 million Baileys will be replaced by one person, and if they don't agree, they will all be killed. The plain tone made the atmosphere suddenly quiet. Diamante was taken aback for a moment, and then laughed loudly. Young master, you are such a genius, you knocked the bamboo stick on Marshal Marine's head. Asterisk. Chapter 6 Sengoku, known as the resourceful general, was helpless. Advertisement. Chapter 6 Sengoku, known as the resourceful general, was helpless. By the way, young master, this time we also arrested an unexpected old immortal. Oh, who is it? King Liku. Torpals v A. 3 years ago, the reason why we didn't kill this old guy was because we needed his daughter to serve us. Now Violet is not in the country, young master, it's better to do it now. Killed King Liku secretly to avoid future troubles. King Liku. Dover was slightly surprised. In the original book, King Liku also entered the bullfighting arena to help his granddaughter Rebecca win Mara fruit, which shows that this person has been hiding in Dressrosa for so many years. And 3 years ago, Violet asked for her father to be released at the expense of serving for the Donquixote family, which is a joke to Dover now. A subjugated princess, even if the ability is very rare, what qualifications does it have to make demands on the winner? What's more, there is a sugar bug in the family, just turn King Liku into a toy, so everyone can forget him. But the matter was over, and Dover didn't bother to correct his previous mistakes. Bring him up. Soon, King Liku, with gray hair and vicissitudes of life, was escorted in by soldiers. Doflamingo. As soon as Fang saw Dover, King Liku's old gloomy eyes immediately burst out with a strong hatred, and let out a low growl with gnashing teeth. Facing the fierce gaze of King Liku trying to choose people, Dover showed a faint smile. It's been a long time, Lord Liku. D. What has turned my country into? King Liku struggled frantically, but was pressed to the ground by the soldiers. Dover's expression fell cold. King Liku, you can't talk nonsense. Dressrosa has been my Donquixote family's territory since ancient times, you should know it. King Liku did not answer. No matter what the history of Dressrosa is, he will never forgive what Doflamingo did to this country 3 years ago. Dover looked coldly at King Liku like a clown, struggling desperately on the ground, but couldn't get rid of the 4 big iron-like hands on his body. For a long time, King Liku gave up the struggle, and the enemy was right in front of him, but he couldn't do anything, even to stand up. Thinking of this, King Liku couldn't help feeling sad, and burst into tears for a while. What can be changed by the incompetent rage of the weak? King Liku, as the subjugator Kun, you should understand this very well. Dover leaned on the soft and comfortable throne, his tone indifferent. King Liku gradually calmed down, raised his head, and looked up at the young figure above that was more terrifying than 3 years ago. Doflamingo, in order to find me, you made the so-called identity medal to censor the nationals. Now the goal has been achieved. If you want to kill, you have to know it. Advertisement. For you. Dover smiled disdainfully. King Liku, you look too high on yourself. But when you bring you here, there is really something I want to ask your opinion about. After all, you have been the king of Dressrosa for decades. Shouldn't you know better than me about the situation in neighboring countries? There was a sudden surge of great anxiety in King Liku. What do you mean by this, Doflamingo? ... Marine headquarters, Marineford, Marshal's office. Since becoming Marine Marshal, Sengoku has a habit of watching relevant information sent by Marine spies from all over the world every day. Although this task is extremely complicated, as the Marine Marshal of this generation known for his brains, Sengoku is extremely easy to deal with. However, something happened recently. Even with Sengoku's wisdom, I felt quite a headache and hesitation. This is the 15th day, and there is no news from Dressrosa. Doflamingo, the ruler of Dressrosa, although he is Shichibukai, how can Sengoku feel relieved about that terrible man whose temperament is completely unpredictable? Therefore, Sengoku sent more than 10 marine spies one after another to sneak into Dressrosa. But this kind of thing cannot be brought to light. After all, Doflamingo is Shichibukai, and theoretically stands on the side of the government. This also resulted in Sengoku not being able to directly question Doflamingo even if he knew that Dressrosa's marine spy might be in an accident. Otherwise, once it gets into the government, it will be yourself in the end. Sengoku was considering whether to send a few more capable men to Dressrosa to look up clues when a seaman broke in. Report to Master Marshal, here is a letter from a secret channel. Oh, Sengoku was surprised. Marine secret channel, only very important news will be quickly passed to him through this channel. Who sent it? The Marines looked blank, obviously not knowing. Sengoku shook his head, knowing that this must not be easy. He took the envelope, glanced at it, and his expression was condensed. On the surface of the envelope, the emblem of the Donquixote family was printed impressively. Could it be that? Sengoku faintly guessed the contents of the envelope, hurriedly opened it, and after reading it quickly, his face immediately became extremely difficult to look at. The letter was sent by Doflamingo. On it were written the names, characteristics, and even portraits of more than a dozen marine spies he sent to Dressrosa. Advertisement. This alone is not enough to make Sengoku gaffe. What made Sengoku extremely annoyed was that Doflamingo actually let him spend 100 million Baileys for another person. A dozen people or 1 billion Baileys. This is really outrageous. This heavenly Yaksha grabbed the money and grabbed him Marshal Marine's head. For a moment, Sengoku even had the urge to send out Marine Admiral. Heavenly Yaksha of damn it, Doflamingo of damn it. Sengoku's face was almost flushed, and several times he tried to make up his mind to teach Doflamingo a lesson, but he held it back. He was caught in a dilemma, and Sengoku, known as the resourceful general, had no idea for a while. In the final analysis, he did not take precedence in this matter. Marshal Marine was monitoring Shichibukai. Although there were excuses, the lawsuit was brought to the government and even 5 elders. It was Sengoku who was the one who had the trouble. It may cause all kinds of bad influences. Such consequences, even if he is Martial Marine, can't bear it. So, can you only agree? Sengoku squeezed his fist tightly. 1 billion Baileys are higher than the rewards offered by the entire Donquixote family, and Doflamingo dares to speak so loudly. Sengoku doesn't want to pay a penny in his heart, but what can he do if he doesn't? Don't care about the life and death of the dozen or so marine spies. If Sengoku really did this, then he would not be the Sengoku of the Buddha. In the end, after an extremely fierce ideological struggle, Sengoku still pinched his nose to admit it. Pay for it. Isn't it just 1 billion Baileys? He is dignified Martial Marine, can't afford it. But don't let other people know about this, especially the guy Garp. Sengoku called his most trusted confidant and solemnly asked him to leave. The confidant hadn't walked far, and suddenly heard a loud noise from behind. Turning his head and looking at it, a scene he had never seen before made him instantly dumbfounded. Martial Sengoku, who has always been gentle and wise, even slapped the desk to pieces, and pieces of sawdust were flying everywhere. Asterisk. Chapter 7 King Liku is desperate, Dover's expansion plan. Advertisement. Chapter 7 Despair of King Liku, Dover's expansion plan. Not to mention how irritated and depressed Sengoku was, how Dover later honestly and unceremoniously accepted 1 billion Baileys. Just talking about King Liku, after hearing Dover's words, a great anxiety surged in my heart. What the hell do you mean, Doflamingo? Dover said unhurriedly. The Kingdom of Protons, the Kingdom of Osno, and the Kingdom of Carthia. You should be familiar with these 3 countries, Lord Liku. King Liku is of course familiar with these 3 kingdoms closest to Dressrosa. Among them, the Kingdom of Protons has the best relationship with Dressrosa under his rule. Its King Elizabello II is also a good friend of King Liku, between the 2 countries. Also help each other from time to time. Doflamingo, what exactly do you want to do? King Liku looked at the young man on the throne. A smile appeared at the corner of the youth's mouth, but this smile made King Liku shudder. 3 years ago, when he tried to seize Dressrosa, he had smiled like this. Seeing the change in King Liku's face, Dover smiled and said, "It seems that you have already figured it out, so tell me all the information you know. Maybe I'm in a good mood, so I let you go." King Liku's voice was trembling. The demon, Doflamingo, really wanted to fight the surrounding 3 countries. Isn't Dressrosa alone enough to harm him? It even harms neighboring countries. Pay attention to your words, you are immortal. Suddenly, a strong wind rang in his ears, and a cold hard foot kicked on his face. King Liku's left face immediately swelled, and blood ran down from his mouth. Diamante looked at King Liku like an ant. If the young master hadn't spoken yet, he would have killed the old immortal long ago. Advertisement. King Liku didn't seem to feel the pain on his face, and still stared at Doflamingo. You are not afraid. Marine knows these things and exposes your evil deeds. It's just a Dressrosa. With the identity of Dover Shichibukai, Marine will not pursue it yet. But once Dover expands his territory recklessly, Marine will never let it go. It seems you are not too dumb. King Liku could see this, but he didn't have been a king for decades. But, who said I'm going to do it myself? A sly look flicked across Dover's eyes. Monet, the letter from King Osno has arrived. Yes, young master. The secretary Monet, who has been standing behind Dover in an elegant black dress, said to Kaido. Read out. Monet immediately took out a letter with the logo of the Osno kingdom and began to read the contents. The letter was written by King Osno himself. It stated that he had followed Dover's advice and fought against the kingdoms of Protons and Carthia at the same time, and had set the date and place for the decisive battle, and asked Dover about the arms and manpower he had agreed to. When will it arrive? Impossible. How could King Osno be so stupid? King Liku couldn't believe it. Human ambitions are like weeds on the wasteland. As long as you give him a fire, it will burn uncontrollably. King Liku, you look down on human greed too much. Dover's face was full of playful smiles. I promised King Osno to help him destroy the kingdoms of Protons and Carthia, and divide the land of the 2 countries with him. King Osno agreed without hesitation. What? Liku Wang was shocked and sat on the ground, murmured in disbelief, how could it be like this, how could it be like this? The next moment, King Liku suddenly thought of something, and suddenly sat up. Doflamingo, you lied to King Osno, you won't give half of the land to Osno at all. King Liku, who had been deceived, didn't believe that Doflamingo would be so kind. Advertisement. Phew ha ha ha. Dover laughed lowly. King Liku was right. He never intended to fulfill his promise to King Osno. Not only that, he also wanted the land of Osno Kingdom. Dover doesn't think this is a despicable act. In this powerful pirate world, there have always been ambitions and interests entangled between nations. Only the weak who are stupid and unknowing will entrust their destiny to others, will be blinded by ambition and believe in the so-called promise. King Liku was completely desperate. He seemed to see 3 more countries, about to be reduced to hell. You demon. Demon. ... Dover made the decision to bring the 3 neighboring countries into control first. In today's new world, with the rise of the youngest 4 emperors red-haired shanks, the water in many sites is too deep to easily interfere. Although the kingdoms of Protons, Osno, and Katya also have their own independent royal families, they are not protected by tyrannical forces. On the other hand, these 3 countries happen to form a quadrilateral with Dressrosa. As long as Dover controls the 3 kingdoms in his hands, he can turn them into a chain of protective islands blocking the front of Dressrosa. That way, even if attacked by a powerful force like the Four Emperors Regiment, Dressrosa would have enough time to react and buffer. Of course, the biggest reason is the rewards of the system. The area of these three countries is about twice that of Dressrosa, which can increase the training time by at least 2 months. In short, to conquer these three countries is profitable without any harm, and Dover is bound to win. At the moment, Dover ordered Pika to lead the army and weapons to go to the kingdom of Osno first. On the day of the decisive battle, he will go personally. Asterisk. Chapter 8 Violet's Shock. Advertisement. Chapter 8 Violet's Shock. Due to Dover's secret promotion, the war between Osno, Prudence, and Katya is in full swing, and the period of decisive battle is just around the corner. King Osno was overjoyed at the arrival of Pika and others as promised. A banquet in the palace to reward Dressrosa's reinforcements seemed to celebrate the victory of the war ahead of time. On the other hand, the kingdoms of Prudence and Carthia are also ready to go, ready to teach King Osno, who has been reluctant to live and provoke a war, a vicious lesson. At this time, King Elisabello II in the palace of the King of Plotinus is discussing military affairs with his military advisor Dagama. Elisabello II said, the hateful King Osno, how dare to look down on me so much, I must make him look good. Dagama squeezed his mustache and smiled. That King Osno was so stupid that he started a war against the two countries at the same time. But the most stupid thing about him is. Dagama saw that he was practicing. The King of Fists glanced. I don't know how powerful your King's Fist is, Your Majesty. Elisabello II once broke a fortress with a punch, and his punch is known as the King's Fist. Dagama even boasted that even the four emperors couldn't take the King's Fist. Of course, this is an ignorant language that he doesn't even know how powerful the four emperors are. Elisabello II kept shaking his fists and sneered. I will kill Osno's army with one blow in the decisive battle. So far, Elisabello II has not used the Fist of Kings, just to give Osno a big one in the decisive battle. This idea was originally very good, but unfortunately, Elisabello II did not know that his people and his country had long been trapped in an invisible master. No matter what his plan or premeditated, he was destined to be in vain. Dressrosa, a small town on the coast. Violet, who had just returned home, looked at everything around him in amazement. Obviously, the scenery has basically not changed, but it gives her a strange feeling that she has gone to the wrong country. Here, is it really Dressrosa? Violet even doubted herself. Advertisement. After a long time, Violet finally found something wrong. It's not that the scenery of Dressrosa has changed, but the people living in this country have changed. As usual, on the street full of laughter and laughter, there is no doll toy. At first, Violet thought that those doll toys should be working in an underground factory. But when she looked at it with clairvoyance, she found that it was not like that. Where did those toys go? Could it be that? Violet suddenly had a thought that made her feel ridiculous. How is it possible? Violet murmured with a wry smile. That person, how could he release those doll toys? In her mind, Doflamingo is the most ferocious and terrifying man in the world, and there is no way to show mercy. At this time, Violet saw an ordinary teenager in a small town and accidentally ran into a family guard who was patrolling. No, this boy is in danger. Violet cried out badly. The so-called family guards were actually vicious pirates in the past. Although this young man hit someone unintentionally, at least he had to break his arm and leg. In all likelihood, he would become a puppet toy. Violet was about to step forward to relieve the boy, and suddenly saw that the family guard only cursed viciously, I don't have eyes. Then, he turned around and left. And what shocked Violet even more was that the boy looked at the back of the faraway guard, and he muttered, what a look. When I grow up, I will become a member of the family, and I will definitely be worse than you. Great. While muttering, he touched a gray card on his chest. Violet looked at it, but it was a card that recorded his name, address, and portrait. From the content of the card, Violet learned that the boy was named Pat. Hi, little Pat. Violet smiled and stepped forward. She wanted to ask the boy in a great confusion. Just now, why did you say you want to be a member of the family? Although Doflamingo deceived, he became the savior of the Dressrosa nation. But the people at the bottom of the family who often humiliate the people do not have the slightest affection for them, let alone want to join the family. Hello, sister. Turning his head and seeing the beautiful Violets, Pat immediately called his sister sweetly. But when I caught a glimpse of Violet's empty chest, his attitude immediately became casual and undisciplined. Advertisement. My sister's question is really nonsense, of course the man has to climb up. Little Pater said with his head held high. Violet became angry for a while, and this kid changed his face faster than flipping a book. Smelly boy, speak to my old lady. Violet grabbed Pat's ear and said fiercely. Under Dover for so many years, Violet has long been no longer the innocent princess. Ah yo, it hurts, don't pull it. Pat hurriedly begged for mercy. Next, Pat honestly answered every question of Violet. From Pat's mouth, Violet learned about the changes in Dressrosa over the past half-month. The king issued a new decree and Dressrosa underwent a large-scale restructuring. Family members can no longer bully the people at will as before, and offenders will be severely punished. The card on Pat's chest is called the Medal of Identity, which must be worn by every citizen. Ordinary civilians, medals are gray, family members are silver, and family officials are gold. The color of the medal represents the level of status, and the treatment they enjoy is naturally different. Just now, The reason why Pat changed his face so quickly was because Violet didn't wear a medal on his chest, and he thought that Violet was just an ordinary civilian. As long as you can prove your strength in front of the family cadres, you can become a member of the family. I, Pat, must change the medal to silver. Thinking back to Pate's rhetoric when he was leaving, and the firm light gleaming in his eyes, Violet couldn't help but shake his heart. Dover, what is your purpose for doing this? Violet light brown eyes looked at Dressrosa's tallest building. There is the residence of the supreme king of this country. Although the distance is very far away, with the ability to stare at the fruit, Violet can still see clearly that the stalwart and terrifying man is sitting on the golden throne, drinking wine. Chapter 9 Secret revealed, Viola collapsed. Advertisement. Oh, dear Violet, you are back. Dover held the clear glass containing the scarlet wine in his right hand, looked at the sexy woman who opened the door and walked in, and said with a smile. The code name of a woman in the family is Violet, with beautiful long brown hair and a pair of charming and deep light brown eyes. She was wearing a long pink madara dress with a purple base. The red skirt stretched to the lower layer, like a blooming rose, blooming to the porcelain white jade feet covered by purple high-heeled shoes. I have to say that among the women around Dover, Violet is undoubtedly the most feminine. In fact, Violet's real name is Viola, and Dover likes to call her Violet. In the original work, there was a vague hint about the possible relationship between the two of them. But Dover, who crossed over, knew that although there was indeed some ambiguity between the two, it had not yet developed to that point. Farewell, young master. Viola tried to squeeze the same respectful smile on her face, but she found that she couldn't do it today. Perhaps with a woman's sixth sense, she faintly noticed that although Dover in front of her has not changed in appearance, some places have become different from before. What's wrong? Violet, you seem to be in a bad mood. Dover looked playfully. Even though Viola was an extremely beautiful woman, Dover did not forget that the woman in the original book easily betrayed him. As the subjugated princess, Viola has always hidden the fire of revenge deep in her heart. Now that Dover knew this, how could he still allow such a thing to happen in the future? Nothing, young master. Viola smirked and looked away. It's just that Dressrosa has changed a lot when I was away. Young master, do you have any new goals? Maybe I can help. Purpose. Seeing Viola's words insincere, and still trying to hide himself, Dover smiled evilly. There is no special purpose, but it is to make Dressrosa stronger. Eating the weak is the eternal truth of this world. Violet, you should know it too, right? Viola was silent. How could she not know the truth about the strong eating of the weak? 3 years ago, it was precisely because of the weakness of the Liku clan that the man in front of him was easily destroyed. But young master, there should be some other reasons for this, right? Viola always feels that things are not that simple. You are still as smart as before. Suddenly Dover stood up, pacing forward, and came to Viola. Viola only felt a powerful haki rushing towards her face, almost suffocating her. Advertisement. Dover stretched out a finger to pick up Viola's smooth and pointed chin, and looked at the latter's eyes, as if his voice came from the abyss. If you want to know, then use your abilities to explore it yourself, Violet yo. Viola's skin couldn't help but shudder slightly. What kind of look is that? Furious, arrogant, indifferent, arrogant, pitch black. No, even all the obscure words in the world can't describe the terrible look in the man's eyes. Viola turned her head in panic, her voice trembling. The subordinate dare not. In the process of turning her head, Dover's fingertips glided across the delicate skin of her jaw. Dover suddenly squeezed Viola's chin, turned her head back, and shouted in a low voice. Look into my eyes. The low and fierce voice made Viola even more alarmed, and Dover's next words made her face extremely pale. Violet yo, I know you fear me and hate me. In the past 3 years, I don't even know how many thoughts have been made to assassinate me. But I don't care at all. Do you know why? Dover's lips slowly moved closer to Viola's crystal clear ears. Because you are too weak. Quote. Wang. It was like being hit by a thunderbolt in his head. Viola could barely support it. She trembled with pale lips. Because of weakness. So I dare not make any moves. I dare not expose my thoughts. Even, they have to put on a smile every day to please their enemies. The former princess, you said, am I right? Quote. Dover's cruel words were like steel needles piercing deeply into Viola's heart. Advertisement. Viola broke down and burst into tears. When Dover let go of her jaw, Viola slumped weakly to the ground like a flower without a stem. She didn't know when Dover learned the true thoughts in her heart, or in fact always knew it. But that didn't matter anymore. At this moment, facing the man in front of her, she couldn't even give birth to the idea of resistance. But Viola felt relieved for a while, because from now on, she would no longer need to pretend to be herself. Doflamingo, you B asterisk 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 D. B asterisk 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 D. I hate you. Collecting the last courage, Viola screamed out what she had already held in her heart, and then lay on the ground and burst into tears. Dover, who returned to the throne, looked condescendingly at the poor woman below, but there was no mercy in his eyes. He is not a foolish fool. For those who are destined to betray him in the future, Dover has only 2 ways to do it. One is to completely obliterate it, the other is to completely destroy the opponent's line of defense, conquer the opponent's mind, and make it no longer think of betrayal. Viola's ability to stare at the fruit is extremely useful for Dover's future plans, so Dover decided to adopt the second method, which is more cruel to Viola. Dover flicked his finger, pulling the thread of his fingertip. An old man with gray hair rushed out from behind the palace. When he saw Viola, who was crying, the old man immediately wailed, "Viola, my poor daughter. This person is King Liku, and he has been controlled by Dover's parasite string, hiding behind the palace." After hearing his daughter's experience over the years, Liku Wang was already in tears. Father. Viola jerked his head up. 3 years later, the father and daughter met again. However, neither of them had the joy of reunion, only grief and despair. Viola suddenly woke up and looked at the man on the throne, tears still on his haggard face, and she was pitiful. "Please, let go of my father, Dover." With a pleading expression. King Liku turned his head away and couldn't bear to look. At this moment, he would rather die by himself than his daughter begs his enemy in such a low voice. "Relax, I don't have any interest in killing your father and daughter." Dover showed a smile in the eyes of Viola and King Liku, no doubt indistinguishable from the devil. The show has just begun, how can the most important audience be missing? Asterisk. Chapter 10 Rebecca struggling in the bullfighting arena. Advertisement. The bullfighting arena is the most chaotic place in Dressrosa. Because of the arbitrary laws of the Donquixote family, Marine cannot intervene even if a major crime occurs here. It is a paradise for robbers, villains, and criminals. All villains who advocate violence regard this as a paradise. And in such a bloody and fierce place, there is a girl contestant who is not a bit offensive, who is incompatible with the atmosphere here, and looks very strange. Ahahaha. Next, it is the last player's turn to come on stage. She is also the only woman in this event and a rare beautiful girl. She is. Under the host's provocative words, the atmosphere of the entire bullfighting arena was suddenly pushed to the climax. People raised their ears, opened their eyes, and were very curious about the last player. She is. The host deliberately showed off before shouting into the microphone. She is the princess of fantasy, the invincible daughter Rebecca. There was a boo on the audience stage. At the same time, the bullfighting arena VIP seats. Diamante, the top manager here, is respectfully welcoming the arrival of the young master. "Young master, I didn't expect that you would also be interested in that yellow-haired girl's game." But when Diamante saw Viola and King Liku following Dover, he suddenly realized that a playful smile appeared on the square-like face. "Young master, you are really nasty." Click. Rebecca, dragging heavy metal armor, slowly walked onto the arena. She has long pink hair and only wears the necessary armor all over her body, exposing large areas of white skin. Although she developed very early, she is about 1 meter 6 meters old, about the age of sugar, but her immature and thin arms are still not enough to easily swing an iron sword without a sharp edge in her hand. Advertisement. Fortunately, she had studied swordsmanship with Mr. Soldier for several years. With the backwater sword dance, she has not lost in the arena. Walking to the center of the arena and listening to the huge boos from the surrounding audience, Rebecca pressed her lips tightly to prevent her tears from falling. Not long ago, she was caught by soldiers of the Donquixote family and thrown into this bullfighting arena. She was named a beautiful girl sword fighter and became a popular gimmick. Rebecca, seeing standing alone in the center of the arena, like a niece abandoned by the whole world, the tears in Viola's eyes could not be restrained. She had heard the news of Rebecca's arrest before, but she never had the courage to face it. At this time, seeing Rebecca being targeted by all the other contestants and being despised by everyone in the audience, Viola felt extremely regretful. Why didn't I rescue Rebecca at the beginning, and let her be so young to endure such inhuman pain? King Liku closed his old eyes and couldn't bear to see how his granddaughter was suffering. The game has already begun. Under the attack of a group of strong and fierce fanatics, Rebecca was surrounded by dangers and almost fell into the water several times. People are still shouting, "Kill that girl. Go and die honestly, descendants of Yu-kun. Ha ha ha, that girl can't hold it anymore." Quote. The excited shouts of people, like a steel knife, struck the hearts of Viola and King Liku. Painful. Hate me. Dover leaned on the wide soft chair and looked at the father and daughter faintly. Enough. Doflamingo. King Liku opened his eyes and yelled angrily, unable to bear any more. "If you want to kill or slash, come at me. Don't torture my daughter and granddaughter." Viola pleaded sadly. "Dover, can you spare Rebecca? No matter what you ask for, I will promise you." Advertisement. Dover couldn't help but sneer at the corner of his mouth. "As a subjugated princess, what qualifications do you have to ask me?" Viola was desperate, squatting on the ground hiding his face and weeping. What? At this time, King Liku couldn't control the grief in his heart. The tragedy of his daughter and granddaughter is right in front of him. If he can remain indifferent, what face is there to live in this world? King Liku rushed towards Dover desperately. Bullet string. Accompanied by an indifferent voice, King Liku thumped and fell. He didn't seem to feel the pain in his knees, and his eyes were splitting. Doflamingo, you are a wicked party that does no evil, sooner or later you will get retribution. Evil party. Retribution. Dover laughed, playing with the invisible thread in his hand. I think I am a good person. He slowly said, King Liku, you should thank me and retrieve Dressrosa again. Even without me 3 years ago, other pirates will come to this country sooner or later. In this era of great pirates, in this ambitious new world, there is no anyone can be spared. Liku Wang fell silent abruptly. No matter how much he hated Dover, he had to admit that what the other party said was right. Although the people of Dressrosa used to live and work in peace and contentment, they were very poor, and it was impossible to survive the intensified era of great pirates. Squatting on the ground, Viola stopped crying with her arms around her knees. Compared with King Liku, who has staring fruit and has been a cadre at Donquixote family for 3 years, she is more aware of how chaotic and cruel this era is. Dressrosa with low strength and superior geography, even without Doflamingo, will be favored by other big pirates. At that time, Dressrosa's situation will probably be worse than then. Suddenly the little guy named Pat, the firm light in his eyes when he left, and the doll toys that had suddenly disappeared appeared in his mind. Viola's heart was in confusion for a while, and her eyes suddenly became extremely complicated when she looked up at the man who would never be able to guess. Asterisk. Chapter 11 Innocent people are not worthy of being king. Advertisement. However, no matter what you think of me, King Liku, you are the root cause of the current situation and the torture of the relatives. Hehehehe. Dover let out an inexplicable low laugh. No one knew that in his mind at this time, there appeared a noble figure wearing a crown but was about to take his wife and children from heaven to hell. Innocent people are not worthy of being king. Boom. It was like a heavy hammer, hitting the head hard. There was a roar in King Liku's brain. Is the culprit me, the root cause of the suffering of the people, daughters, and granddaughters? Is it? No, it's the evil party of Doflamingo. However, if I could clearly understand the advent of the great pirate era and work hard to grow Dressrosa, maybe I would not. King Liku only felt that his brain was splitting at this time, and he couldn't tell who the enemy was. But he said that Viola, who was squatting on the ground, had been staring at Dover since then, suddenly shocked. It was not because of what Dover said, but because of the strange light flashing in the depths of Dover's dark pupils when Dover just spoke. That kind of strange light, she had never seen it in the man before her. Is that sorrow? Lonely? With the staring fruit, she even suspected that she was wrong. Doflamingo, how can such a terrible, arrogant, and invincible man have such emotions? This man, has he ever experienced anything? Viola bit her lower lip lightly and thought with complicated eyes. Dover didn't know the momentary emotional change, but Viola keenly caught it. He returned to his usual plain, high-pitched expression. Go and bring that girl up, the show is not over yet. Advertisement. Yes, young master. Diamante, standing behind Dover, immediately took the order. He stretched out his scarlet tongue, licked his lips, and glanced at King Liku and Viola with cruel pleasure. Seeing the young master psychologically torturing and crushing the father and daughter is really a pleasure for him. Soon, the exhausted Rebecca was brought up. In the previous competition, Rebecca relied on the sword dance to win again, but she had reached her limit. She followed the guard in silence, and when she came to the VIP table and saw the man sitting on the throne, drinking wine leisurely, Rebecca's eyes suddenly turned red. Doflamingo. The cry of hatred. In Rebecca's eyes at this time, only the man she hated day and night was left. With a thin and exhausted body, a force surged from nowhere, and rushed towards Dover desperately. No, Rebecca. Viola quickly got up and hugged Rebecca, who was blinded by hatred. Aunt. Rebecca was stunned, only to discover that there was still her own relative on the VIP seat, and there was more than one. Grandpa. Rebecca stared blankly, half kneeling at Dover's feet over there, the old man who had loved herself most. The tears slipped silently from his cheeks, flowing more and more, almost converging into two streams. How she wants to impulsively touch her grandfather's arms and tell her the sufferings she has suffered in the past 3 years. King Liku's eyes were blurred, he understood Rebecca's eyes, and he felt ashamed and self-blaming in his heart. Doflamingo is right, he is a naive and incompetent coon, he can't protect his own granddaughter, and he doesn't deserve to be the king of Dressrosa at all. It's a wonderful confession scene. A light of excitement flashed across Diamante's eyes. As an out-and-out villain, seeing people's pain is his greatest pleasure. At this time, Dover's voice came. Advertisement. Diamante, go and prepare a warship. Diamante's eyes lit up, guessing where the young master was going next, and the eyes of King Liku, Viola, and Rebecca couldn't help being more cruel. Is it going to let the three of them relive the nightmare they had 3 years ago? Ha, I think it makes me feel funny. Thinking of this in my heart, Operation Diamante immediately went to prepare a warship for Dover without stopping for a while. The coast of Dressrosa. A huge ship was anchored there, magnificent and luxurious. Only the king of Dressrosa was qualified to ride. Wong, is this going to sea? Sure, didn't you just see the boat prepared by Master Diamante himself? Does that mean that His Majesty the King is coming here soon? Ah, here comes. Your king is down. Almost instantly, the entire coast boiled. The people cheered loudly and excitedly, kneeling to welcome the arrival of Lord King. Dover raised his hand slightly, and the citizens immediately stood up neatly, demonstrating Dover's unparalleled prestige. Seeing this scene, King Liku wearing a black robe looked dim. The people who once loved him, now regard Doflamingo as a god. On the way from the bullfighting arena, Viola also told him that Dover seemed to no longer turn the nation into a toy. Now, the biggest obstacle in King Liku's heart also faded. Although Dressrosa has now enacted laws that are much stricter than when he was in power. But it is not difficult for King Liku to find that under the urging of the much stricter law, the people's eyes have an extra layer of light, which is a kind of light that will climb up desperately. Under the background of the Great Pirate Era, such light is undoubtedly extremely beneficial to the development of a country. Perhaps, Doflamingo is really more suitable than me to be the king of this country. Li Ku Wang thought silently in his heart. Asterisk. Chapter 12 The Instinct of Human Nature, the Abacus of the Three Kings. Advertisement. In the crowd, Viola had seen the young painter impressively. Pat gave a respectful look at the king who had gone away and couldn't see his face, and then turned his gaze to the king's guards, those family members. Pat clenched his fist tightly with envy. Once you become a family member, not only does the whole family do not have to pay taxes, but your identity will be better than others, and completely get rid of the fate of the low-level civilians. This is the greatest desire in Pate's heart. But he also knows that it is not so easy to become a family member and must be approved by a cadre. These days, he found several family cadres, but when others saw that he was young, they would not give him a chance to express himself, so they sent him away. But Pat was not discouraged. He recently heard of a family cadre named Senor Pick who likes to wear baby clothes. He didn't care about the age of the person. Pat decided to try his luck with him. There are not many Dressrosa like Pate who want to become a family member and thus change his own destiny. Although Dover did not deliberately investigate, he knew this well. After all, people go to higher places, and water flows to lower places. As long as there is a channel for promotion, people have to dig in even if they break their blood. This is human nature. In fact, Dover originally set this rule not only to allow the family to absorb more fresh blood, but also to make his rule more stable. Because those who have recently become family members are basically civilians born and raised in Dressrosa. Once they obtain a higher status, if anyone wants to incite the people at the bottom to oppose Dover in the future, they will automatically resist and fully maintain the country's system and stability. This is the instinct to become a vested interest. When Dover's ship moved away from the coast, the loud farewells were still faintly audible. Rebecca clenched her fists as she was standing in the corner of the ship with Viola and King Liku. Damn, it's Doflamingo, so fooled the people who originally supported the grandfather. In Rebecca's view, people's admiration and cheers for Dover are undoubtedly the result of being deceived by Dover. Advertisement. Rebecca. Next to him, Viola noticed Rebecca's abnormality, and quickly took her little hand and shook her head. Two jade hands overlap each other, one is alluring honey color, and the other is all white, echoing each other, looking very beautiful. Rebecca's white fist gradually loosened, and she knew that she couldn't do anything now. Even with my aunt and grandfather, their destiny is completely under the control of that person. Rebecca was at a loss for a while, not knowing where the man was going to take them. At the same time, Osno Palace. King Osno couldn't restrain his anxiety and excitement, and asked loudly. Mr. Pika, hasn't King Dressrosa arrived yet? Pika's shrill voice Kaido wearing a golden helmet. Don't worry, King Osno. The young master has already set off from Dressrosa, and he will be there in the final battle. King Osno was assured, and he looked up to the sky and laughed wildly. That's good, then I will order the entire army to march towards the kingdom of Protons. The decisive battle of the three kingdoms is set in Protons. While King Osno looked up to the sky and laughed wildly, a strange color flashed in his eyes. These days, in the battles with the kingdoms of Protons and Katya, the Osno army has repeatedly won the battle, which has continuously fostered the arrogance of King Osno, and also allowed his ambition to spread uncontrollably. Ha 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 ha, King Dressrosa, I blame you for the weapons you sold me so useful. After the decisive battle, you should go back to Dressrosa, the land of the two kingdoms of Proteans and Katya, Lousy wants all of them. Quote. King Osno thought crazy in his heart. Advertisement. And Meli, the only son of King Osno, who stood behind him, had a triumphant smile on his face. His father's plan was naturally clear to him, thinking that he would soon become the only prince of the three countries of Osno, Protons, and Katya, he could not help but shudder with excitement. It was also at this time that in the palace of King Protons, King Elisabello II and King Katya were also discussing something. How are your preparations, King Protons? King Katya with the sharp-mouthed monkey cheeks asked panically. This time, he brought all the troops in the country to Protons. Once the decisive battle is defeated, the kingdom of Katya will become history. King Katya couldn't help it. Osno's B***** D made it clear that he was going to annex his country, forcing him to join forces with Elisabello II. Elisabello II is still practicing boxing, he has been practicing for nearly a week. Hearing the panicked voice of King Katya, Elisabello II laughed. Put your heart back in your stomach, King Katya. When Osno's army arrives, I will let them taste the taste of death. That is, King Katya, you don't have to worry about it at all. Dagama, the military master of the kingdom of Protons, smirked, Our Majesty King's fist is powerful, far beyond your imagination. Seeing that King Protean and the military divisions were so confident, King Katya was relieved, but he was thinking about how to safely bring his army back to the country after victory. He didn't want to escape the fierce tiger Osno on the front foot, and was swallowed by the evil wolf Protons on the back foot. For a time, the kings of the three countries had their own ideas, and the catastrophe was not far away. Chapter 13 Fist of King Elisabello II. Advertisement. Dover's ship stopped at the port of the kingdom of Protons. When Rebecca saw the fire-filled kingdom of Protons, her eyes widened with fear. She remembered that the night when she was 6, Dressrosa was in such a fire. Viola hugged Rebecca, who couldn't help shivering because of the thought of her childhood nightmare, and asked Dover. You started the war here, Dover. Why did you do this? Earlier, because of Dressrosa's change, because of the loneliness that flashed in Dover's eyes, the glimmer of good hope for him was immediately shattered. No, No, Violet, what you said is wrong. Dover shook his head and smiled evilly. It is not me who started this war, but the ambition, the deep-rooted ambition of mankind. What? Viola was shocked. As if thinking of something, she immediately used the ability to stare at the fruit to look at the entire kingdom of Protons. The picture printed into her pupils made her stunned. The battlefield was in front of the palace. Through the flags, Viola clearly saw that the two fighting parties were the Protons army and the Katya versus Osno army. Viola also saw Pika, but undoubtedly, the main forces of this war were the kingdoms of Osno, Katya, and Protons. Human ambitions will never be obliterated, Violet yo. Dover jumped suddenly, and at the same time tied the three of Viola with a string, and flew towards the center of the battlefield. On the walls of the palace of Protons. Elizabello too smiled and looked at the Osno army who was fighting with his own army at his feet. It's time. Elizabello too clenched his fists tightly with his gloves on. These days of forbearance and exercise, he did it for this moment. Elizabello too turned around and quickly walked down the city wall. King Katya had to follow, thinking of the battle of tens of thousands of people under the city wall, his double strands couldn't help but tremble. After all, this is the first time a war involving tens of thousands of people has occurred in this sea area. Advertisement. At the same time, King Osno looked complacent. Because of the advanced munitions purchased from Dressrosa, his army has defeated the coalition forces of Protons and Katya steadily, and victory is just around the corner. As a result, he doesn't care much about Dover who hasn't appeared yet. Even, he thought that Dover had better never show up, so that he could take over the territory of Protons and Katya without any trouble. King Osno. As King Osno was having a sweet dream, he was taken aback by a deafening shout. King Osno quickly looked at the source of the sound, and couldn't help but sneered. Who am I? It turns out to be King Protons and King Katya. Why, I am about to subjugate the country before I dare to come out. Are you going to surrender to me? Ha 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 ha. Ha ha ha, cowardly king, hurry up and kneel down to beg for mercy from our lord. Ha ha ha. The guards around King Osno laughed loudly. Suddenly, King Osno's laughter stopped, and he found something was wrong. The foolish man of Elizabello too is not afraid of him. Although the coward of King Katya has a pale face, there is not much fear in his eyes. Do they have any unused whole cards? There was a sense of anxiety in King Osno's heart. At this time, Elizabello too walked to the forefront of the coalition forces of the two countries, wearing a crown on his head and raising his right fist. Soldiers of Protons, your king is here. The Protean soldiers behind him suddenly cheered loudly, and their morale skyrocketed for a while. HMPH, even if you come, King Proteans, today is your death date. Osno Wang Chang suppressed his anxiety. Come here, use a cannon to blow him to death. Elizabello too sneered and said, Osno, you are the one who died today. Our king's fist has been enduring for a long time. King's fist. King Osno was taken aback. It is rumored that Elizabello too once blasted a fortress with this punch. Pika explained in a shrill voice. However, although the king's fist is powerful, as a stone fruit-powered person, he is not afraid at all. The ground under his feet is his most solid defense. Advertisement. Hee, how can the rumors be believed? Osno shook his head repeatedly. Pika didn't bother to care about him. It's best for such an idiot to die under the fist of the king, and the young master will have to do it himself later. Opposite, Sergeant Dagama laughed wildly. King Osno, let you see how powerful your majesty is today. As soon as the words fell, Elizabello too began to gain momentum, and he couldn't wait to see the death of King Osno's B********************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************** moved backwards. The power accumulated this week has all gathered his right fist. A strong momentum suddenly descended, and everyone felt bored. The king's fist is really the king's fist, and the rumors turned out to be true. Feeling that powerful aura, King Osno immediately panicked. He remembered that he had also heard of the power of the king's fist, and it was said that even the 4 emperors could not accept it. What should I do? What the hell should I do? King Osno was anxiously like an ant on a hot pot. When he glanced at Pika on the side, he seemed to have seen a life-saving straw, and hurriedly grabbed Pika's arm. Save me, Mr. Pika. King Dressrosa, and Lord Doflamingo, he can definitely save me, right? Let go of your dirty hands. Pika shook off King Osno in disgust. Also, don't use your humble status to call young master by the name. Pika was ready to lead his men into the ground to avoid the edge of the king's fist. As for King Osno and the life and death of Osno's army, it is a matter of his a. King Osno was desperate. On the other side, Elizabello too was already ready, and the last word came out from his mouth. Fist. Asterisk. Chapter 14 Dover arrives, Conqueror's hockey, who destroys Lachao. Advertisement. King. Of. Fist. Just when Elizabello too was fully prepared, he was about to throw his fist. Just as King Osno turned pale and looked desperate. Just as Pika was preparing to lead his men to avoid the edge for a while. Just as the allied forces of Protons and Katya cheered excitedly, while the Osno's army was panicked. A voice suddenly rang in everyone's ears. Hello, Elizabello, if you kill everyone, it would be quite troublesome to find so much free labor. When the voice fell, Elizabello's momentum was stagnant. Who? He was furious inexplicably. King Osno was ecstatic. King Dressrosa is here, it must be King Dressrosa. Everyone's eyes are looking up to the sky. A vague figure shrouded in golden light fell from the sky. The moment his person appeared, a powerful and sweeping power came crashing down. That power is clearly invisible, but it can be felt very clearly, like a mountain pressing on the heart. In contrast, Eliza Bello too had accumulated the king's fist for an unknown period of time, and the aura he brought up was like ants and elephants, which fell apart in an instant. Good health. So heavy. Who the hell can be like this in one sentence? Is it a god? I can't breathe anymore. Under that power, everyone bowed their heads, and some even knelt on the ground, shouting, God. Such power is hockey. Eliza Bello too also lowered his head. He was more knowledgeable than those soldiers, and he quickly reacted. The powerful force that was pressing on him was clearly hockey. No. Not just as simple as hockey. Advertisement. If it is just an ordinary hockey, it is impossible to make him unable to raise his head. Eliza Bello too suddenly came to mind, a word that made him feel that his throat was dry. Conqueror's hockey. And, it's definitely not your average conqueror's hockey. If it hadn't been for the pressure of that power to make you stand unstable, King Osno would surely jump up with excitement. Hi, Mr. Pika. He trembled with excitement. It's King Dressrosa. You can tell him to kill King Proteans. Pika's ferocious eyes gave King Osno a fierce look. This stupid trash unexpectedly dared to appoint a young master. But the young master didn't speak, and he couldn't kill the idiot King Osno directly. Pika looked away from the stupid King Osno, enjoying the heavier and heavier pressure on him. The young master's conqueror's hockey is really getting more and more terrifying, even if compared to the four emperors, it won't be much different. Huh, what about conqueror's hockey? My king's fist can't even be received by the four emperors. Eliza Bello too snorted coldly in his heart. Under the admiration of the military master Dagama day and night, Eliza Bello too truly believed that his king's fist was invincible, even the four emperors was not an opponent. Therefore, even conqueror's hockey, he has to let him bow his head under his king's fist. Elizabiro too raised his head under tremendous pressure, exposing the blood vessels in his neck. He saw clearly, saw the midair, the man who looked like a god. So it was him. Eliza Bello too was even more furious. He recognized Dover. Earlier, he had investigated Osno's advanced munitions, and the source seemed to be Dressrosa. Now, the appearance of Doflamingo undoubtedly proves that Dressrosa and Osno have a connection. Damn it, hateful. Eliza Bello too was furious and shouted at the man in midair. Go to hell, bastards. Die all with my king's fist. In the next moment, Eliza Bello too swung his strongest blow with hatred, the king's fist. Advertisement. Midair. Dover had a playful smile on his face. The king's fist, which claims to be able to defeat the four emperors, seemed to him, but it was stronger than the ordinary shock wave. Can you defeat the four emperors with this? It's a false statement from an ignorant person. But, this king's fist can allow him to test his hockey. Since leaving the customs, he has only guessed about the strength of his hockey, and has not had a very clear concept. Let's use it to measure my current capacity. Dover began to mobilize hockey all over his body, of course, Conqueror's hockey. At the same time, behind Dover, King Liku, Viola, and Rebecca were shocked when they felt the hockey exuded by Dover. However, when King Liku saw Elizabiro too, there was a glimmer of hope in his heart. Perhaps Elizabello's fist of kings can defeat Doflamingo. Although he admitted that he was a failed king before, and that Dover became the king of Dressrosa, he was better able to protect Dressrosa. But subconsciously, he still hopes to drive Doflamingo away. However, not long after the hope in my heart rose, King Liku was horrified to discover that the hockey on Doflamingo suddenly became stronger. What is strong is not just a little bit, but rises like a huge wave. Doflamingo just didn't play all Conqueror's hockey at all. Viola's beautiful eyes widened to the side. She knew that Dover hadn't used all his strength just now, but she didn't expect that Dover would still hide so much strength. His conquerors is more terrifying than before. Viola's eyes were complicated. Viola couldn't imagine the depth of a man with such conquerors. And the ground, under conquerors, which Dover broke out with all his strength. In the blink of an eye, all tens of thousands of soldiers fainted. As for Elizabello I's king's fist, under the cover of Dover conquerors, it is like ice and snow falling into magma, melting in a flash. Destroyed. Asterisk. Chapter 15 Enhanced Parasite String. Advertisement. Impossible, how can my king's fist? At the last moment when Elizabello too fainted, he still couldn't believe his king's fist, and he was devastated and destroyed without even touching the man. Dover. Lang. Brother Ming. This is the last voice in Elizabello I's mind. If he is alive after this war, this name will surely become a nightmare he will never forget. Only a few seconds after Dover released Conqueror's hockey with all his strength, the only people standing on the ground were Pika, as well as King Osno and his son Merli, who he specially let go. Dover nodded in satisfaction, certain of the strength of Conquerors now. He led the three of Viola and fell from the air. King Osno quickly greeted him. His Majesty King Dressrosa. Seeing Dover's incomparable strength, King Osno was not a fool. He put away his original thoughts about monopolizing the two countries, and his posture was also extremely low. Your brilliance is as dazzling as a god, even celestial dragons. King Osno's face was flattering, and what he said made Pika feel sick. Dover looked at King Osno, who nodded and bowed, with a smile and a smile. His eyes looked like a god from above looking down on an ant underground. King Osno didn't notice it at all, he noticed a familiar figure behind Dover. Huh, isn't this King Liku? King Osno straightened up immediately and sneered. King Liku, are you here to witness the victory of the noble Lord Doflamingo and this king? Ha ha ha, as the subjugated Kun, you will never experience the taste of such a winner. Hearing Osno's undisguised irony, King Liku didn't have any expressions of shame on his face. He just looked at King Osno with pity on the triumphant king. King Liku knew very well that King Osno's next fate would only be more miserable than him. Little Lord, Pika stepped forward to pay homage, and then pointed to the Osno King Road. This guy used to have a good idea to monopolize the kingdoms of Proteans and Katya. What should I do with him? Oh, is it? Dover raised his eyebrows, but he didn't expect Osno to be so stupid. Advertisement. King Osno's face changed drastically, and he quibbled. No, nothing. Mr. Pika, you must have heard some rumors. Huh, Pika gave a sharp sneer. Idiot, do you think you can hide your little actions from me? King Osno suddenly paled. He did make some small moves, such as ambushing a group of men and horses in the rear, preparing to drive Dover's army away. But at this moment, they are all under the baptism of Dover conquerors, and the personnel are unknown. Melly, run away. King Osno turned around and fled, not forgetting to call his son. There was only one person, and he didn't have the courage to face Dover at all. However, an incredible scene appeared. When King Osno passed by Melly, his son caught his father firmly and prevented him from escaping. Melly, what are you doing? King Osno shouted in horror. Melly didn't seem to hear his father's roar, his expression was dull, like a zombie without emotions. Hey. At this time, Dover let out a low smile that made King Osno's hair stand up. Osno, you are so stupid as to surprise me a little. But since you like dreaming so much. Dover's fingers moved gracefully like a piano. Then I will give you a nightmare. As soon as the voice fell, Melly drew the long sword from his waist and slashed at King Osno. Don't. Melly, you be ************************************* D, are you going to kill your father? There was endless panic in King Osno's eyes. He struggled desperately and roared, but he could only watch desperately, the sword's edge getting closer and closer to his neck. Doflamingo, don't you think this is too cruel? Viola couldn't stand it anymore, and among the few people present, she was the only one who dared to say such things. Cruel. Dover's mouth curled up indifferently. The kindness to the enemy is the true cruelty to himself and his family. Violet, you are still too naive. Viola tightly pressed her full and alluring red lips, and tightly held Rebecca, who was still trembling in his arms, without responding. In terms of strength, she could not resist Dover. Psychologically, she could no longer refute Dover. Advertisement. Even though Dover's methods are cruel, in such a world, there is nothing to blame. King Liku sighed in his heart. This is the bloody reality. The strong dominates everything, and the wailing of the weak has no meaning. The sword is like a throat, dripping with blood. King Osno, who was still dreaming of a great dream one day ago, was killed by his own son, and Melly didn't even blink his eyes. What the hell is going on? He should be controlled by Dover's parasite string, but he shouldn't have even reacted to killing his father. Viola saw Melly's anomaly. Parasite string can control people's movements, but cannot control people's consciousness. Viola immediately connected his index finger to his thumb, placed it in front of his eyes, and looked at Melly's brain. I saw Melly's mind. There are actually a few lines that are almost invisible. Viola was shocked. What the hell did you do to him, Dover? It seems that you can see it. Violet, you really deserve to be a person with the ability to stare at the fruit. Dover glanced at Viola and chuckled. It's just wiped out his sanity, you should be able to see it. Wipe out the mind. Are they referring to the lines in Melly's head? Parasite string can still do this level. Viola couldn't help feeling a deep fear. Viola was wrong. Ordinary parasite string certainly couldn't do this step. At this time, Dover's parasite string is the enhanced parasite string after practice. Dover calls it an enhanced version of parasite string. The power of the enhanced parasite string is that it can not only enter the human brain and erase its mind, but it can also exist eternally in the body of the controlled person. In other words, as long as Dover does not have an accident, the person who is completely controlled by parasite string will always be under his control. Of course, this is only for ordinary people like Melly. For a strong man with a certain level of strength, Dover is unable to achieve complete control, at most he can only control briefly like Diamond Joe's in the original book. Asterisk. Chapter 16 Arrangement for Viola, Angry Baby 5. Advertisement. The war between Protons, Osno, and Katya came to an end in a blink of an eye, and Dover easily obtained actual control of the three countries. Viola has witnessed almost from start to finish how Dover played with the kings of these three countries in his palm like a marionette. All the calculations and preparations of the three kings seem so ridiculous in front of the absolute strength of this man. When Dover left Protons and returned to Dressrosa, Viola and Rebecca were left here. Although Dover actually controlled the three kingdoms, in order not to attract Marines' attention, it was revealed that the Osno kingdom annexed the other two countries. But Dover also needs a manager to turn these three countries into a strong barrier in front of Dressrosa. This requires considerable management and management capabilities. Among the current cadres of the family, there are few suitable candidates. Virgo works as an undercover agent at Marine, and Monet is his full-time secretary. Only Viola is the most suitable. Dover believed that Viola would never betray him after his psychological defense was completely destroyed. But to be on the safe side, he asked Pika to stay and supervise, and at the same time brought King Liku back to Dressrosa. On the other hand, Dover also took away tens of thousands of soldiers from the field. These soldiers are all loyal to the original royal family, and Dover will not leave these hidden dangers. But it would be a shame to kill them. Dover had actually planned for a long time. The buying and selling of arms, how can such a profitless business stop? Undoubtedly, these tens of thousands of soldiers will become toys and become the main labor of Dressrosa's underground arms industry. Viola knew this well, but she didn't stop it. In this short day, her mood has changed tremendously. Although she didn't want to admit it, in fact, her heart was firmly engraved with the words Dover had said to her. Soon, within a few days, Dover found that there was more than 2 months of training time on the system. Advertisement. By taking advantage of the newly appointed King Osno, Meli, Viola stabilized the situation in the Three Kingdoms. Secretly, she has become the queen of the Three Kingdoms in the actual sense. Although, she, the queen, no matter how noble she is, will always be under the control of that man. Standing on the high wall of the Proton's palace, Viola looked in Dressrosa's direction, her light brown eyes were extremely complicated. For Dover, she has fear and hatred in her heart, but there is also an indescribable complex emotion. She knew from the bottom of her heart that she had almost poisoned her infatuation and belief in that man. Standing next to Viola was Rebecca, who was restored to its original shape and dressed in a showy outfit. Viola knew that Rebecca had been practicing swordsmanship these days, apparently still dreaming of revenge against Dover one day. Viola sighed secretly, what a silly boy. She held Rebecca's hands tightly and exhorted. Rebecca, in the future, we will live well. ... Back to Dover in Dressrosa, granulated sugar sticks to him to sleep at night as usual. Sister Monet had nothing to do, plus the young master's pampering, she had no choice but to let it go. This morning, granulated sugar was awakened by a huge explosion. What? It's so noisy, I want you all to become toys. Rubbing his big sleepy eyes, Grana said with a childlike look of getting up and pouting angrily. Dover rubbed her little head and told her to go out first. Sugar was still pouting her mouth, put on a pink bear coat, and walked slowly to the door. Advertisement. When I saw the culprit in the maid costume, he immediately snorted, damn it's violent woman. The visitor was Baby 5, who showed up for the first time in so many days. With a thin lady's cigarette in his mouth, Baby 5 sneered, damn it's little devil. Sugar is too lazy to deal with this violent woman who is full of weapons. She also doesn't want to turn Baby 5 into a toy, because what if the weapon on Baby 5 pierces her white and tender little hand? Baby 5 didn't care about the sugar either, she walked into Dover's bedroom angrily. Joker, I must kill you today. Baby 5 turns his arm into the shape of a cannon and faces Dover. Dover yawned greatly and looked lazy. He knew why Baby 5 had come. Why? Why did you kill him, and his whole family? He asked me to marry him. Baby 5's eyes are red, as if she has been wronged by the sky. The he in Baby 5's mouth refers to the neighboring villain who proposed to her a few days ago. In order to prepare for the wedding, Baby 5 did not even participate in the most important meeting of the family. However, never expected that Joker would kill him and his whole family. For Baby 5's anger, Dover only found it a little funny. Although Baby 5 often behaves violently, but because he was abandoned by his mother since he was a child, he never learns to reject others. Therefore, there is no shortage of people with different ideas, come to Baby 5 to borrow money, and even maliciously propose marriage. Of course Dover would not be merciful to those who are unpredictable. After all, this little woman who longed to be needed by others followed herself when she was very young. Similarly, he knows the weakness of Baby 5, he naturally has a way to eliminate Baby 5's anger, and will make him never agree to any other people's requests. Dover looked at Baby 5, who was wearing a burgundy-made costume and had amazingly long legs, with an evil smile at the corners of his mouth, and said seriously. Baby 5, because, you are my most important maid. Asterisk. Chapter 17 Baby 5 is shy, Sengoku being laughed at. Advertisement. Baby 5, because, you are my most important maid. A sudden sentence made the unprepared Baby 5 stand on the spot. The most important, maid. Am I needed? Baby 5 was hit by the, most important, 3 words for a while, making her dizzy. Seeing young master's sincere eyes, handsome face, and a wicked smile that made people fascinated by it, Baby 5's cannon aimed at Dover trembled and changed back to the original smooth lotus arm. The person who needs me most is young master, I am young master's most important maid. These words kept echoing in Baby 5's mind, and she almost fainted with happiness. As for the, him, who was wiped out by the whole family, he was thrown out of the sky by Baby 5 a long time ago. Dover smiled slightly and naturally stretched out his arms and said. Baby 5, my most important maid, come and help me dress. Yes, young master. There were 2 blushes on Baby 5's cheeks, just like the sunset in the sky, her 2 slender hands were twisted together, and she squeezed to the ground, looking extremely shy. When she walked behind the young master and dressed the young master very meticulously, she saw the young master's solid and stalwart back, and the tip of her nose surrounded the young master's unique masculine breath. Faint. It seems that they will faint. ... At the same time as Dover was enjoying the extremely gentle service of Baby 5, the Marshal Sengoku at Marineford was like pork liver. Ha 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 ha. I'm so ridiculous, Sengoku. You were blackmailed by that heavenly Yaksha over 1 billion Baileys. Wow ha ha ha. Who dares to laugh at Sengoku like this, who laughs unscrupulously in the Marshal's office, besides Garp? When Garp learned that Sengoku had been blackmailed by Dover for 1 billion pele, he almost broke his belly on the spot. Advertisement. Sengoku, known as the resourceful general and always strategizing, would eat such a big deflation, it is really rare. Enough, Garp, when are you going to laugh? Sengoku's pig liver-colored face said extremely ugly. It's almost done, Garp. There is a third person in the marshal's office, but it is Vice Admiral, Marines Chief Staff Officer. Crane, Garp and Sengoku are old partners. Seeing Garp is still so old and rude, he has no choice but to shake his head. Garp quickly covered his mouth, but the laughter still leaked from his fingers, obviously unable to hold it back. Oh, Crane shook his head speechlessly. She no longer cared about Garp, who had no serious image, looked at Sengoku after changing a new desk, and asked. But Sengoku, it really surprises me that you will suffer such a big loss. What is going on? 1 billion Baileys is not a small amount. When did Heavenly Yaksha, who was once chased by her, have such a great ability to make Sengoku, who has always been stubborn, able to pinch his nose and make such a large sum of money? Sengoku sighed, and then explained the cause and effect of the incident. Garp also pricked his ears to listen, and he didn't know the specifics of the matter. Doflamingo's damn it be *****************, let the old man exchange 100 million Baileys for a marine, it is really outrageous. Even though it has been a while, Sengoku still couldn't help the irritation in his heart. Puff. Ha 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 ha. Knowing what happened, Garp laughed unbearably again. An angry Sengoku picked up the senbei on the table and stuffed it into Garp's mouth fiercely. Crane frowned at this time and said, why are Marine spies found out by Doflamingo? This shouldn't be. Crane was quite puzzled. The Marine spy exposed 1 or 2 and it was excusable, but they were all exposed, which was obviously abnormal. Advertisement. There must be something weird in it. Sengoku nodded solemnly. I also feel weird. I'm afraid that something happened to Dressrosa that we don't know. All of Dressrosa's Marine spies have been expelled, and he now has a black eye on Dressrosa's situation. But even so, Sengoku didn't dare to send Marine to investigate easily. He didn't want to be blackmailed by Doflamingo again. Well, it's normal for the pirate to catch Marine, ha ha ha. Garp chewed on the stuffed senbei. That's how it is said, but Doflamingo is no ordinary pirate, he is 7 warlords of the sea. Because it was Shichibukai, Sengoku could not use many methods. He blackmailed Dover more than 1 billion Baileys, and he still has nothing to do so far. I'll go take a trip. Crane seemed to understand Sengoku's concerns and took the initiative to stand up and say. As a rare female powerhouse who once chased Dover and as a rare female powerhouse in the pirate world, it is undoubtedly the best choice for Crane to go to Dressrosa. Please, Suru. Sengoku also understood this and didn't object. Hello, Sengoku. Garp on the side suddenly said loudly. Let the old man follow, he is also very curious about the heavenly Yaksha who deflated you. With that said, regardless of whether Sengoku agreed or not, he followed the Crane and walked out together. Sengoku sighed helplessly, knowing that he could not command Garp, but thought that Garp would follow along. Garp, as a marine hero, even the 4 emperors dare not provoke easily, so let him scare the increasingly arrogant Doflamingo. The old man's money is not so easy to take. Sengoku thought bitterly. Asterisk. Chapter 18 Conquer the villain, kill 3 birds with 1 stone. Advertisement. Baby 5 is now Dover's most loyal and conscientious maid. Dover's daily dressing and washing at night are all personally served by Baby 5. As a result, the rest of the maids in the palace were nowhere to be used, and soon they were arranged by Monet, the secretary and butler of the palace, to another place. Naturally, Dover wouldn't say much. There is such a beautiful maid as Baby 5 serving in front of the horse, especially the pair of beautiful and invincible long legs dangling back and forth in front of his eyes, which is quite pleasing to the eye. But Dover was happy in it, but a little guy was not happy. Inside the palace hall, Sugar was lying in Dover's arms, with big eyes staring straight at Baby 5 who was looking for Dover wine. The little nose hummed, not knowing what he was thinking. When Dover brought the grapes to her mouth, the careless granulated sugar even contained Dover's small index finger. Sugar, are you tired these 2 days? Dover's gentle voice came. In the past 2 days, the tens of thousands of soldiers that Dover brought back from the kingdom of Protons turned sugar into toys. But the ability of granulated sugar is not omnipotent. Every time you change a toy, you will consume a certain amount of physical strength. Therefore, Dover spoiled Sugar in the field for these 2 days, and even made Monet a little jealous. Yeah, I'm tired, I'm almost exhausted. Sugar turned her gaze away from the violent woman who was not pleasing to her eyes, twisted her body like a baby, and said pitifully. Dover couldn't help but smile. Although he knew that Sugar was deliberately acting as pitiful, he rewarded Sugar with another grape. The Sugar held the grapes happily, and he glanced at Baby 5 who was running over with the wine like a demonstration, as if saying, look, the young master is the best to me. Standing behind Dover, Monet watched all Sugar's careful thoughts in his eyes, couldn't help pursing his lips, and glared at Sugar. At this time, a messenger came to the door, and Monet walked out. What's the matter? Advertisement. The messenger reported in a low voice. Monet nodded and returned to the hall. Young master, it's about the Donquixote clan, their patriarch Gon Chao wants to see you. The Donquixote clan, that is, the little human clan that lives in Grimbit near Dressrosa. Dover controls the 3 kingdoms of Protons, and naturally he will not forget Grimbit, the nearest to Dressrosa. Conquering Greenbite is much simpler than the three kingdoms of Prudence, because the villain is a race that is extremely easy to believe in others. Dover had asked Monet to take the statue of Rolando in Bembera, which Bellamy had sent back from East Blue Guy Island, to Green Butte. After seeing the statue of the villain hero Rolando, the villain immediately eliminated their hostility to Donquixote family. After all, at this time the family had not captured the villain Princess Mansurely, nor had it enslaved the 500 villain compatriots. In addition, Monet, who had an angel-like beauty and a warm smile, folded his hands on his chest, and said piously, "Young master, is the best person in this world," and the little human race completely fell to Dover. King Ganchao of Dongtata only brought Princess Mansurely and Captain Leo to visit Dover. Dover went out to greet him personally. Seeing Dover's gentle smile, Ganchao breathed a sigh of relief. How could this King Dressrosa, who took office 3 years ago, be as cruel as the rumors outside? He knew he was a good man by looking at him. Ganchao respectfully saw him. "I have seen King Dressrosa. Can the old man want to call your young master Rondo?" "Of course." Dover smiled. If Viola was there, her mouth would grow in shock, because she couldn't imagine that Dover would have such a sunny smile. Dover opened his hands as if welcoming a friend. "After all, we are good friends since ancient times." Ganchao was even more emotional when he heard that young Master Rondo was indeed a good person. Behind Ganchao, Mansurely looked curiously at the tall and stalwart Dover. She had heard many rumors about Dover before, all saying that Dover was a cruel pirate, a very terrible man. Advertisement. But at this moment, seeing Dover himself, Mansurely realized that it was nothing like rumors. How could Dover, who was so kind and a good friend with his grandfather, be a bad person? Sister Monet is right, young Master Rondo is a good person. Mansurely also called Dover as young Master Lando in her heart. A group of people walked into the hall. The smile on Dover's face did not change. He asked Ganchao to sit down and said, "King Ganchao, Dressrosa and Grimbit are almost next to each other. Our two countries are natural allies and friends. Young Master Randu is right." Ganchao nodded repeatedly. Dover smiled even more, like a bad uncle who abducted a child. "So, should good friends help each other?" "Of course." Ganchao nodded vigorously, patted his chest and said, "If young Master Landu needs help from the Dongtata clan, just say it." Dover laughed loudly. This was what he was waiting for. Nowadays Dressrosa is undergoing rapid development. I heard that your Dongtata clan has a lot of experience in cultivating plants. I hope you can help cultivate a plant that can make Dressrosa more perfect. Ganchao didn't even think about it, and said, "No problem, it's on our Dongtata clan." Leo, the villain commander standing next to Ganchao, proudly said, "Our Dongtata clan is the most cultivated race in the world." Dover naturally followed with a compliment, and finally he said, "Friends help each other." Correspondingly, Dressrosa will also provide ground supplies for the kingdom of Dongtata. At the same time, it will send troops to Greenbit to protect the kingdom of Dongtata from the invasion of other adults. The words made Ganchao, Leo, and Mansurely tears of touch. Originally, Ganchao wanted to ask the whereabouts of King Liku, the previous king, but for a while, he left it behind his head. In this way, Dover obtained the help of the little humans with just a few words, and put Grimbit in his bag, and made the little humans grateful to him, which can be described as 3 birds with 1 stone. Compared with the original book, the method used to kidnap Mansurely to coerce the villains is many times more clever. Asterisk. Chapter 19. The era is smiling, seeking a reward for the evaluation of the collection of flowers. Advertisement. Dover used simple and clever means to firmly bind the Dongtata clan, letting the little human clan willingly work for him. Not only that, he has also become a great person in the hearts of the Dongtata clan. Dover was very happy. When Ganchao left, he even kept him in the palace for a few days. Ganchao declined to take care of the people, but he was more grateful to Dover in his heart. On the contrary, Princess Mansurely asked to stay. She grew up underground and was very curious about the world of adults outside. Moreover, she also has a good impression of the tall young Master Rondo. After Ganchao and Leo left, Dover asked Monet to take Mansurely down to rest. Today's Dressrosa can be described as a monolithic one, and all possible hidden dangers in the future have been killed by Dover in the cradle. The only Rebecca's father, Cyrus, who became a toy soldier, was also found a few days ago. When Cyrus turned back into a human being and rushed towards Dover desperately, Dover easily removed his sword holding his right arm, completely becoming a useless person. Dover didn't bother to kill him, and threw him to Viola. When Monet returned to the main hall, Dover was leaning on the high throne. Next to him, Sugar concentrates on dealing with the grapes in the basket, and Baby 5 beats his leg with satisfaction and happiness. Dover's 2 fingers sandwiched the transparent goblet, and the scarlet wine swayed slightly in it, and his eyes were shining with strange red lights. To subdue the little human race is not only as simple as obtaining a large group of free labor and a little territory of Greenbite. What Dover values most is the ability of the villains to cultivate plants. Times are smiling. Monet. Watching Monet walk toward him in a graceful step, a deep smile appeared on Dover's face. Monet could not understand what the young master was saying, but it did not prevent her from praising the young master. "Young master, you are also smiling." Monet's angel-like fair face was fair and tender with a sweet smile. "Monet, you really are a sweetheart." Dover laughed. Advertisement. Monet was loyal, beautiful and intelligent, and Dover felt very comfortable at all times. Choosing her as his full-time secretary was really a very right thing. However, even though he was as smart as Monet, he could not guess the meaning of the smile he was talking about. After all, such a thing does not exist in the world at this moment. Such things are man-made devil fruit. Smile. Dot dot dot. Dot dot dot. The kingdom of Osno. Viola sat on the high throne, just like the man, with a high expression on his face. At the bottom of the steps, a tall soldier named Abu was kneeling on the ground, reporting the arrest of the rebels to the noble queen above his head. Beautiful but full of indifferent voice, from the throne. According to the old method, send them all to Dressrosa. Yes, yes. Abu's voice trembled slightly. The voice above his head was the most moving and beautiful voice he had heard since he was born, but the indifference and nobility contained in it made him shudder, and he was deeply awed and afraid to give birth to any other thoughts. Abu kowtowed again, turned and walked out of the palace cautiously, for fear of making a noise. Looking at Abu Ting's back, Viola sighed in her heart. Abu was recently promoted from among the civilians of the Osno kingdom as the commander of the army. He is a zone fruit-capable person who specializes in arresting insurgents for her. If you want to settle the chaotic situation in the three kingdoms of Osno, Prodens, and Carthia in a short time, it is not so easy even if the puppet king Merli stands in front and assists with the highest cadre of the Pika family. One thing. Viola had to take some radical measures. For example, the cruel suppression of all opposition voices on the territories of the three countries. Viola once never thought that one day, he would do the same thing as Dover. But, this is the rule of the world. Advertisement. Viola thought as if to persuade herself, suddenly feeling aroused. But there is still one thing that makes her feel a headache. The brother-in-law Cyrus, who was sent here yesterday, recognizes Rebecca and his daughter. As soon as they meet, Cyrus will teach Rebecca swordsmanship. At this moment, the two of them are probably still cultivating hard somewhere in the palace. A wry smile appeared at the corner of Viola's mouth. Cyrus and Rebecca still wanted to find Dover's revenge. How could she not see it? But she couldn't help it. After all, Cyrus's wife, Rebecca's mother, and his own sister Scarlet were killed by Dover's Diamante himself. It stands to reason that she should be the same as Cyrus and his daughter, but for some reason, Viola has no idea of revenge at all. Today's Viola, of course, still has a bit of hatred for Dover, but there is also an inexplicable sentiment. Of course, there is also the fear hidden deep inside. Hate, love and fear are the most true portrayal of her emotions at this time. With a deep sigh again, Viola stopped thinking about these annoying things. She straightened her back, and the noble and arrogant temperament that she had cultivated during this period of time exuded immediately. She stared at the beautiful light brown eyes and activated the ability to stare at the fruit. In an instant, all 4,000 miles in a radius were under her vision. As long as she finds any insurgents, she will immediately suppress them. At the same time, it will also monitor the surrounding waters. Xingzongguo's so useful ability was also an important reason why Dover asked her to manage the three kingdoms that day. However, there is no sign. Viola's expression changed abruptly. She saw a huge warship in the waters hundreds of miles away from Osno, heading towards Dressrosa. The two people standing on the deck turned out to be Marine's chief staff, Crane. As well as the more terrifying Marine hero, Garp. Asterisk. Chapter 20 The Big Crisis, Crane and Garp are coming. Advertisement. Why did Crane and Garp come to Dressrosa? Viola looked flustered. To say that half a month ago, two such powerful Marines came to Dressrosa, she didn't know how happy she would be. But now, Viola has completely abandoned the idea of revenge. Almost subconsciously, she began to worry about Dover in her heart. Although Viola didn't know that Dover had blackmailed Marshal Marine more than $1 billion Bailey, but she guessed it, and it was impossible for Crane and Garp to come to Dover to talk about the past. Dover. Viola bit her red, plump lower lip tightly. She had heard that Dover had been chased all over the world by the chief staff officer. Obviously, that old grandma's Crane is probably stronger than Dover. What's more, there is also the hero Garp who is following the Crane. Without any hesitation, Viola hurriedly notified Pika of the matter. When Pika heard that Crane and Garp were coming to Dressrosa, his expression was extremely solemn. These two, but Marine's top combat power. Even the young master would be extremely difficult to deal with. Not daring to stay for half a minute, Pika set off to return to Dressrosa immediately, to inform the young master of the matter personally. Before leaving, Pika gave Viola a deep look. At first, he didn't believe Viola at all, and he couldn't figure out why the young master handed over the management of the three kingdoms to this woman. But now it seems that the young master's decision is really wise and martial, and this woman's ability to stare at fruits is extremely useful for predicting danger in advance. Seeing Viola's worries, he would definitely not betray the young master again. Advertisement. Royal Palace of Dressrosa. After saying, "The times are smiling," Dover gave Monet an order to investigate Punk Hazard, the secret scientific research base of the world government. Monet immediately used the Donquixote family's network in the underground world to search for all news about Punk Hazard. Punk Hazard, at this time, has not been destroyed by the poisonous gas of the evil scientist Gai Sakalang, and has not become an island of ice and fire due to the battle between Akainu and Aokiji. It is still an important research base of the world government. Vegapunk, the world's #1 scientist and a mysterious traverser who doesn't even know about Dover, is there. But Dover's goal is not Vegapunk. Vegapunk's goal is too big. Once missing, Marine may desperately search for it. After all, Vegapunk is too important to the world government. Dover's target is the evil scientist Guy Saw Current. In this world, only Vegapunk and Guy can make smiles. After gaining the allegiance of the villain, Dover naturally focused his attention on Guy Saw, the other indispensable part of planting Smile. However, before Dover took any action against Punk Hazard, two uninvited guests came to the door. Pika, who came in a hurry from Osno Kingdom, asked anxiously. Young master, what should I do? The old lady Crane and the old fellow Garp are here to find her. It's no wonder that Pika is so calm, it's because Crane and Garp are two terrifying old monsters. Even if, because of the identity of Dover Shichibukai, the two would not do anything unusual to Dressrosa. But just stepping on this land is enough to make the top cadre of the family nervous. Dover glanced lightly at the anxious Pika, and to be honest, he was also a little surprised at the arrival of Crane and Garp. However, it is still not going to be gloomy. However, seeing the two old guys from Marine, he scared his top-level Pika into this. Dover couldn't help shaking his head in his heart. Advertisement. Even though his own strength has been greatly improved, the cadres under him have not changed much. In the future, if it is an enemy of Marine, 4 emperors, and even the world government, this is a shortcoming that cannot be ignored. The young master's faint look caused Pika's eyelids to jump, and he vaguely felt that the young master was dissatisfied with his anxiety. Pika closed her mouth immediately and became frightened. Even though he was the highest cadre of the family who had been with Dover for nearly 2 decades, he felt a sense of awe from the bottom of his heart for the young master who was becoming more and more difficult to figure out now. Dover stood up and left a faint sentence. Don't let other people know about this matter, I'll be back when I go. In the next second, Dover's figure disappeared into the sky outside the window. Pika was blinded immediately. Young master, what does this mean? Where is he going? Isn't it the only one to deal with Crane and Garp? Thinking of this, Pika was shocked and wanted to persuade the young master. Pika suddenly fell frustrated and panicked, very worried about the safety of the young master. As the highest cadre of the family, the strength of the old woman he couldn't be more clear. Coupled with Garp, just thinking about it, Pika feels that young master's trip must be extremely dangerous. However, the young master didn't let him tell other people about the matter, obviously he didn't need anyone's help. Pika had no choice but to return to the kingdom of Osno and only told Viola the matter. When Viola heard that Dover wanted to deal with Crane and Garp alone, her heart shook, and the face of the flower suddenly became very pale. Viola gritted his teeth, and was about to chase Dover at the moment, but thinking that at his own speed, when he arrived, the battle between the two sides would have been over long ago. Dover, what are you going to do? Viola's beautiful eyes were red. She never thought that one day she would be so worried about the man's safety, and she clearly hated him before. Asterisk. Chapter 21 Dover like a god. Advertisement. It is more than 200 miles away from Dressrosa. The blue sea and blue sky, the breeze rippling. A marine warship is moving smoothly and fast on the sea. In New World, no matter how cruel and arrogant pirates are, they dare not have any covetousness when they see this warship that seems to be single. Because, on the deck of the warship, there are 2 old men with white hair standing. Garp, why do you have to follow? It's enough to deal with heavenly Yaksha. Marine Chief Staff Suru complained to Garp who was eating senbei beside him. Garp smiled and said, well, Xiaohei, don't worry, I won't interfere with you. If you want to teach Doflamingo, I will help you hide it. Wow ha 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 ha. Crane curled his lips helplessly. This guy Garp is really an old naughty boy who can't control her and Sengoku in this life. However, her strength is even stronger than her. Although I haven't seen Doflamingo a few times, since it can make Sengoku suffer such a big loss, it is definitely not a simple character. Garp said while eating senbei with a hint of reminder, little Crane, you can't take it lightly. What? The Crane nodded slightly. Although she is confident of her strength, she will not despise Doflamingo. From a long time ago, when he hunted down Doflamingo, Crane knew that he was a man with great ambition and deep thoughts, who was likely to cause great trouble to the world in the future. Therefore, she used to perseverely want to catch Dover. But desperately, Dover later became Shichibukai, which led to the arrest and death. It has been so many years since Dover became Shichibukai. To what extent his human strength is, Crane can't say clearly, but this time is an excellent opportunity to test. Thinking like this, Crane and Garp didn't know, the object they were talking about, no longer known when, stood on the high clouds above their heads. Dover looked indifferently at Garp and Crane, who were only the size of Madara. If he could, he really wanted to kill the two here to clear some obstacles for future plans. But unfortunately, the strength of these two people is not trivial. Even Dover, who has gone through system training, can't guarantee that they can beat them, especially the grinning old man Garp. Of course, on the other hand, before everything is ready, he doesn't want to completely tear his skin with Marine for the time being. Therefore, the moment Dover came out of Dressrosa, Dover was not ready to confront Garp and Crane, nor did he intend to show up. Advertisement. His purpose is only to prevent Garp and Crane from going to Dressrosa. Dover didn't want his own country to have 2 more factors beyond his control. I saw Dover standing near the sky, waving his hands, 10 slender fingers and fingertips, shooting out countless threads that were so subtle that they were invisible to the naked eye. The line stretches indefinitely, and you don't know where it is in a blink of an eye. ... Osno Palace. Viola's eyes were red and anxious. Only then did she know that before she knew that Dover's position in her heart was so important. Pika's shrill voice urged. Violet, what are you waiting for? Use your abilities to find young master. Viola woke up like a dream, and she was so worried that she suddenly forgot her own abilities. Immediately, Viola urged clairvoyance with all his strength. Soon, she saw Dover standing on the clouds over the marine warship, and she was relieved. How is young master? Pika asked repeatedly. It's okay for the time being, Dover shouldn't attack Garp and Crane. Viola said so. In her opinion, Dover was just hiding on the cloud, investigating the movements of Garp and Crane. This is common sense, after all, facing those two people, even the four emperors would not act rashly. However, wouldn't it be more convenient for you to do such a small thing as investigating? Viola couldn't help but a trace of doubt flashed in her mind. At the same time, a small island in New World. The inhabitants of the island are facing the catastrophe, an extremely rare and extremely large thunderstorm. The sky above the island was covered with black thunderclouds, and countless electric snakes wandered in it, dropping dozens of thunders from time to time, covering the entire island. Advertisement. Is this God punishing us? God, this is the end has come. Run, run, another thunder has come down. People screamed, cried, and ran around. But no matter where you hide, a thunder will smash the shelter. Soon, the residents of the island were desperate. In the face of the mighty majesty of nature, what else can tiny humans do besides closing their eyes and waiting for death? God, the supreme God. An old man suddenly fell to his knees and prayed loudly, please be merciful and let this island go. We are willing to give everything and repay you for your kindness. Some young people who gave up struggling laughed, shit God, this thief. However, halfway through his laughter, his voice suddenly stopped as if being pinched by his throat. Because, a ray of sunlight shed from the sky and fell on his face. There are obviously thunder clouds in the sky, how can there be sunshine? The young man raised his head blankly, and then was shocked to find that the huge thundercloud covering the entire island was moving away at an extremely fast speed. Heaven, the gods are manifesting. The young man fell on his knees with a trembling lip, his voice louder than the old man just now. The people who knelt on the ground at the same time as him, and the residents of the entire island, they all shouted. The gods are manifesting. The gods are manifesting. However, if someone can fly to the sky at this time and have enough insight, they will find that what makes thundercloud leave is actually countless tiny threads. It turned out that the appearance of the gods that the residents on the island chanted were only caused by the line shot from Dover's hands thousands of miles away. For Dover, the huge thundercloud that caused the entire island to fall into despair, and believed that it was absolutely impossible to resist, was just a tool between raising his hands. Chapter 22 Thunderstorm bombarded, depressed Crane and Garp. Advertisement. Found it. Standing on the clouds, Dover's complexion suddenly moved, and the corners of his mouth slightly raised, and his eyes looked at the warship below with a hint of playfulness. It is really curious how the hero Garp, who was frightening the sea, and the chief staff Crane would react if they were bombarded by endless thunderstorms. Dover didn't know that the thundercloud he had drawn from thousands of miles away had accidentally saved an island. Moreover, Dover is also called a deity by the inhabitants of the island. However, although the residents of the island were saved, Garp and Crane were destined to be unlucky. Osno Palace. Viola has been watching Dover closely. Dover is not only investigating, but must have done something she didn't know. Viola stared desperately. Finally, she found Dover's slender fingertips, the line projecting. Where did those lines go? Before Viola was puzzled for too long, a huge thundercloud suddenly appeared in the sky under his vision. Thundercloud. Viola was surprised at first, but when the sky was still clear just now, how could there be thunderclouds? Could it be that? She seemed to have thought of something. Her skin tightened, her eyes fixed on the thundercloud. I saw the edge of the thundercloud. There are countless thin lines connected. Layan. It really was Dover's arrival. Viola felt absurd, and even more shocked. This move is like manipulating Tianwei. Dover, is it a god? It took a long time for Viola to react from the shock. She gave a wry smile. Just now, all her worries were in vain. The strength of that man was far beyond her imagination. What happened? Pika saw Viola's abnormality and asked quickly. He was worried that the young master had an accident. But when Viola told her what she had seen, Pika suddenly understood that her worries were ridiculous. Young master is the omnipotent king. Pika couldn't help but knelt on the ground, feeling extremely ashamed that he had previously doubted the strength of the young master. Immediately, he said viciously, let the two old immortals be buried in the sea under the mighty power of the young master. Advertisement. Marine warship. Garp and Crane are still chatting leisurely. Crane was talking about her past when she chased Dover, and Garp laughed. It seems that heavenly Yaksha is indeed a difficult opponent. Xiaohei, you have to be careful. He said that to Crane, but Garp didn't care much in his heart. His strength had already reached the same level as the dead One Piece Roger, and he didn't really care about a Shichibukai. Suddenly, Garp paused with his hand in his mouth, staring at the horizon in amazement. Xiaohei, do you feel something is wrong? What? He looked confused. There seems to be thunder, and there are a lot of them. Garp pointed to the horizon. As a fruitless physique expert, Garp's Conqueror's hockey has cultivated to the top level. Of course, the strongest is armament hockey. Crane's observation hockey was much weaker than Garp, and still didn't hear any thunder. But soon, she didn't need to listen. Because, a huge thundercloud that was crushing black and wandering with countless thunder and lightning had already appeared in her field of vision. Then, what the hell is that? Even with the mind of a crane, sensing the majestic might of the thundercloud, he couldn't help his voice trembling for a while. Cranes reacted like this, and the rest of the Marines on the warship were naturally even more panicked. If Garp and Crane hadn't given orders, they would have turned the bow and fled. Little Crane. Garp's expression is also rare and solemn. The old man made a mistake just now. The old man still underestimated the heavenly Yaksha. You mean? Crane's eyes widened in shock. What Garp means, does it mean that this huge thundercloud is related to Doflamingo? Garp nodded affirmatively. The movement speed of this thundercloud cannot be naturally formed, it must be controlled by someone. Except for the heavenly Yaksha we are going to find, the old man can't think of anyone else. He was stunned immediately. Controlling such a vast thundercloud, is it the Doflamingo that she once knew well? Be careful, Crane, Layan is about to reach us. Suddenly, Garp yelled, awakening the Crane. At this moment, the huge thundercloud had reached the top of their heads, and stopped, no longer moving. This is not a man-made ghost, it's strange. Damn it. Crane's face was extremely ugly. Advertisement. I wanted to find trouble with Doflamingo, but I didn't expect to be put in such a place before Dressrosa. But Crane was too late to be angry. Dozens of thunders, from the thundercloud above the head, crashed down. Break it. The roar of the thunder snake made the sea boil. The Marines hugged their heads and squirmed. Facing this huge Tianwei, they couldn't have the idea of resisting at all. What? Suddenly, a seaman was struck by lightning and screamed, turning his body into coke. The remaining Marines were even more frightened and hurried into the cabin. Only Garp and Crane remained on the deck. Little Crane, go back to Marineford. It seems to Dressrosa that we can't make it. Garp sighed. No matter how angry he was, he had to nod his head with an ugly expression. In the face of this massive thunder bombardment, even if she and Garp can carry it down with hard power, those seamen in this warship can't do it. Retreat. Crane clenched his fist unwillingly. Since she became Marine, she has never been so fooled by a pirate. Especially, the target of fooling her this time was Doflamingo, who was chased all over the world. Heavenly Yaksha, the old man took this account down. Before leaving, Crane shouted loudly. She knew that Doflamingo could definitely hear her. High in the sky, Dover standing on the thundercloud did hear it, and couldn't help but sneered. Did you write it down? Then I will let you remember it more deeply. Suddenly, more thunderclouds were drawn by him, making the thunder that fell on the sea even more powerful. Doflamingo that be asterisk 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 D. Even Garp became angry, and Dover was clearly playing with them. However, even with his experience, he couldn't find out where Dover was hiding. This also led to the fact that they had no evidence to prove that Dover attacked Marine. Dover will still be protected by Shichibukai's system. On the bright side, Marine still cannot attack Dover. Thinking of this, Garp and Crane are even more depressed and want to vomit blood. At this moment, an indifferent voice, accompanied by the roar of thunder, like a god, came from all directions. Go back and tell Sengoku, Dressrosa, there is no room for your Marine to set foot. Asterisk. Chapter 23 Viola's Changes, Blooming Violets. Advertisement. Go back and tell Sengoku, Dressrosa, there is no room for him, Marine. Against the backdrop of the thunderous roar, Dover's voice was magnificent and full of supreme majesty. The Marines hiding in the cabin shivered with horror, and some even knelt down and worshipped. Lord Celestial forgive me, Lord Celestial forgive me. Garp and he were even more angry with these words, their faces black as the bottom of a pot. But even if the two of them are powerful, they are helpless at this time. If you don't leave, this warship will sink. At the moment, the two had to endure their irritation and reluctantly drove the warship back to Marine headquarters. The warship was in tatters and obviously could not be used anymore. Garp was struck by lightning a few times, and his beard was almost black. Sengoku was shocked when he saw Garp and Crane's embarrassment, and asked quickly. What's the matter? Didn't you go to Dressrosa? Why did you seem to be struck by thunder? Osno Palace. Viola saw everything in her eyes, and the shock in her heart subsided for a long time. She couldn't help thinking that even Garp and Crane, the two top Marine powerhouses, had broken back in the face of that man. In this world, who else can be higher than that man? Suddenly, in Viola's vision, after seeing Dover running away Garp and Crane, he did not return to Dressrosa, but came in the direction of Osno. For some reason, her heart suddenly became more nervous than ever before. Viola hurried back to the bedroom and asked the maid to freshen up herself. When Dover came to the sky over the Osno kingdom, he saw that the original chaotic situation of the three kingdoms had stabilized under Viola's care. He also saw a tall soldier who should be Viola's subordinate, arresting the insurgents. There was a meaningful light in Dover's eyes. Viola's performance even exceeded his original expectations. At this moment, even he didn't know what that charming woman was thinking. Dover landed at Osno Palace, waved his hand to make Pika retreat, and walked into the palace hall. The light in the palace hall was a little dim, but Dover still saw it at a glance, the woman sitting on the throne with two honey-colored thighs crossed, her expression extremely cold and arrogant, and her body exuding noble air. Advertisement. Dover couldn't help but smile. Compared to the last time we met, Viola has changed a lot. Standing with his hands in his hands, he looked up at the noble queen on the throne, and said lightly. Violet, how do you feel looking down on me? After Sengoku listened to Garp and Crane's narration, his old face became pig liver again. Damn, it's Doflamingo, clearly didn't put Marine in his eyes. Sengoku hit the table with a punch. If it hadn't been for him to react to the strength at last, the newly replaced desk would be torn apart again. But thinking of Dover's last words of warning and provocation, Sengoku still couldn't contain the resentment in his heart. Sengoku, send me 10 warships, the old man must teach that damn it heavenly Yaksha a meal. Garp's scorched beard shuddered, angrily. And beside him, the chief staff member who has always been calm and wise, did not oppose him. Obviously, Crane was really angry this time. In the end, Sengoku was the first to calm down and shook his head in denial. No, as long as we haven't found evidence, as long as Doflamingo is still Shichibukai, Marine can't attack him. The 10 warships, or the 10 warships led by Garp, are almost like Buster Call. What would you think of 5 elders when you face Shichibukai with Buster Call? What will the other Shichibukai think? After the fruit is unpredictable, Sengoku certainly would not agree. Is that forgotten then? Garp said angrily. The brain of Sengoku the resourceful general is spinning fast, trying to find a way to teach Doflamingo without violating government policy. However, after thinking about it for a long time, I didn't think of one. Advertisement. Because there is no such thing as a two-pronged approach. Sengoku's face twitched, and he said with difficulty, Garp, you can go home and rest for a while. And so is Crane. Obviously, Sengoku was comforting 2 old friends. Garp immediately glared at Sengoku with his big brass eyes. Crane's face was also dissatisfied with Sengoku for the first time. 3 old people who were almost over 200 years old had big eyes and small eyes. After a long time, they smiled bitterly at the same time. What's so special? Defying Marine, who has the 3 oldest qualifications, the highest status, and the top strength, is completely helpless against an arrogant Shichibukai. On the high throne, when he saw the stalwart man walk into the palace hall, Viola could even hear his heartbeat. Violet, how do you feel looking down on me? Hearing Dover's words, Viola's honey-colored skin couldn't help but shudder slightly. She could no longer sit securely. She stood up and walked to Dover. The cold, arrogant, noble breath disappeared without a trace under the man's gaze. Her eyes looked weak, and her long eyelashes quivered slightly. Dover looked at Viola, and he knew that this woman who had told him Marine's information would never betray him again. Dover suddenly reached out and took Viola into his arms. Viola's bedroom was still brightly lit until late at night. Viola forced her weak body and looked at the man who was already asleep. Just now, this damned man actually forced himself so much. Viola bit her full and moist red lips, and suddenly lowered her head on Dover's solid chest, taking a small bite. Seeing the tiny tooth marks on the man's chest, Viola suddenly smiled triumphantly. Then, I fell asleep to my heart's content. Asterisk. Chapter 24 News from Punk Hazard. Advertisement. Return from the Kingdom of Osno. Dover chose to practice in retreat, and the arrival of Garp and Crane made him feel a sense of urgency. His strength is still insufficient. Otherwise, he can completely let Garp and Crane stay forever this time, clearing these 2 great obstacles in the future. Temporarily handing Dressrosa to Monet's management, Dover immediately entered a secret room in the depths of the palace to concentrate on practicing. After conquering the 3 major kingdoms such as Osno and Greenbit, the training time of the system rewards reached 3 months, and the cultivation speed increased by 100 times, which is nearly 25 years. Oh, why doesn't the young master come out yet? Sugar is almost boring. On the 10th day of Dover's retreat, in the palace hall, Sugar has complained to his sister for hundreds of times. She was wearing a pink bear dress with a small pink face. Anyone who saw it would praise the porcelain doll. Sugar, the young master is doing very important things. Don't disturb him, okay? Monet's voice was soft, and he touched the cute bear ears on the Sugar head. Huh, Sugar is still pouting, his face full of unhappy. These days, not only does she feel bored, she also sleeps uncomfortably at night. Sugar was used to lying in Dover's arms and sleeping peacefully. Monet sighed. Although she can take care of the whole country tightly, she has nothing to do with the child's tempered sugar. In this world, I am afraid that only the young master can control the sugar. Advertisement. Sugar ate the grapes for a while, and suddenly felt that the young master's grapes became unpalatable without the young master, and the little mouth couldn't help muttering. Sister, why does the young master want to practice in retreat? Is there someone who is against the young master? Then just let the sugar turn him into a toy. Monet smiled helplessly. She couldn't refute the words of granulated sugar. After all, the ability of granulated sugar was incomprehensible to some extent. Monet had no choice but to say, there are many people who oppose the young master, and they are very strong. It's not as simple as you think. Unexpectedly, the small sugar hand hockey waved, then turned them all into toys, and see if they dare to fight against the young master. Monet smiled bitterly. Time passed in a flash, and more than a month passed. Dover, who had ordered that no one be disturbed for 3 months, left the customs by himself. Dover was sitting on the golden throne, surrounded by the daughters who hadn't seen him in the past 2 months and couldn't help but miss him. Baby 5 walked on a pair of beautiful and smooth long legs, pouring a glass full of wine for Dover diligently, and from time to time he wiped the dust on Dover's clothes with his jade hand. There was no dust at all. Although Monet was not so obvious, when he reported to Dover, the light of joy in his beautiful eyes could not be concealed. When it comes to the most exaggerated performance, the childish sugar can be counted, and the whole body is directly hung around Dover's neck. Dover squeezed the smooth little face of the sugar, and the sugar immediately showed a cat-like comfortable expression. Dover looked at Baby 5, who was squeezing his shoulders, and Monet, who was affectionate. He also sighed. He left the barrier early this time because he found that his cultivation had reached a certain barrier. No matter how hard he tried, it would be difficult to make progress. But Dover didn't force it either. He knew that the growth of strength could not be achieved by immersing himself in hard training, but also through actual combat. However, with Dover's current strength, he can fight against the fact and make him use his full strength, at least at the level of 4 Emperor's Admiral, and it is impossible to conduct actual combat training in a short period of time. Advertisement. Of course, Dover did not waste the remaining more than a month of cultivation time. He used it on the top cadres of the 3 families, Toripal, Diamante, and Pica, who are still cultivating in the secret room at the moment. Strengthening the strength of those around him was what Dover had planned to do a long time ago. After all, he is destined to confront the world government in the future. On the government side, there are at least 6 or 7 people with only admiral-level strength, and Dover has only his own words, which seems to be lonely. These thoughts flashed through Dover's mind, and Monet said at this time, "Young master, I have already inquired about Punk Hazard." Dover's eyes lit up, and Punk Hazard, the evil scientist, was an indispensable part of his plan. From Monet's mouth, Dover learned more specific information about Punk Hazard. Punk Hazard at this time, as Dover had previously guessed, was still an important research base for the world government. The gossip from the underground world said that a secret weapon called PX is being studied there. It is said that once completed, even the big pirate with a bounty of more than 100 million will not be an opponent. Hearing the word PX, Dover immediately knew that he was actually a pacifist. In the original book, the pacifist owns both Shichibukai Bartholomew Kuma's body and Marine Admiral Kizaru's laser. The power is indeed quite impressive, and it beats the Straw Hat Pirates at the time. Perhaps just to protect this shady secret research, Punk Hazard has twice as many Marines as before. Monet said solemnly. Dover also frowned. It seems that the world government does not pay much attention to Punk Hazard. It is impossible to go in and kidnap Guy Saw without knowing it. In that case, the corner of Dover's mouth suddenly lifted up, and Monet also sneered with palpitations. That will simply destroy the entire Punk Hazard. Asterisk. Chapter 25 Devil's Son Nico Robin. Advertisement. Dover is bound to win Punk Hazard, even if it is destroyed. However, we still need to wait for the right time. Because Dover knew that he was now a thorn in Marine's eyes and a thorn in his flesh. After all, he has made Sengoku, Garp, and Crane, the 3 most qualified Marine celebrities, all have a big somersault. At this time, if Punk Hazard is destroyed, such a major event that shocks the world, Dover will definitely be listed as the first object of suspicion by Sengoku. At that time, many of his methods will be difficult to develop. Just let Punk Hazard settle down for a while. Dover thought with a sneer. At this moment, Monet said softly after finishing Punk Hazard's information. Young master, there is a big news in the underground world recently, which may be of interest to you. Oh, Dover raised his brow. Monet was not an aimless person. Since he said that he might be interested, then this big news is definitely not easy. It's news about Nico Robin, the survivor of Ohara, the son of the devil. Monet said in a beautiful voice like a collision of pearls. It is said that the last organization that hid Nico Robin was wiped out by the world government, and Nico Robin fell into flight again. Now many people in the underground world are discussing which organization Nico Robin will join next, then that organization will be unlucky. NS. But there are also big guys in the dark world who want to take the initiative to contact Nico Robin. Because she is the only person in this world who can interpret the text of history. Monet said everything he knew in one breath, and then he kept silent, waiting for the young master's decision. As Dover's full-time secretary, Monet vaguely guessed the young master's future plans. She knew that the young master was destined to confront the world government in the future. Monet, who knew his own strength and couldn't help the young master too much, wanted to help the young master as much as possible through other aspects. An accidental news of Nico Robin made Monet's heart move. What kind of big secrets are contained in the blank 100 years that make the world government so afraid? Don't hesitate to launch Buster Call to destroy Ohara. Advertisement. If this secret is used by the young master, it will surely become a great weapon against the world government in the future. Therefore, Monet had secretly investigated Nico Robin with all his strength. But whether or not to hold Nico Robin in his hands is something that only the young master can decide. After all, although that woman is extremely important, it is also a big trouble. Dover had never expected that Monet was talking about Robin's news. Robin at this time should be only 23 years old. Not surprisingly, the next organization he will join is the Baroque Studio of Crocodile, the Sand Crocodile who is also Shichibukai with Dover. Dover's eyes darkened. Now that he knows Robin's news, he certainly wants this woman who can subvert the world, master, in his own hands. Dover looked at the peaceful Monet standing in front of him. This little secretary, who is extremely loyal to him, has done a great job for himself. He stretched out his right hand and placed it on Monet's white face. Monet immediately tilted his head, so that he could feel the warmth of the young master's palm more, and his face showed a happy and contented expression. Dover couldn't help but chuckled, and said with deep meaning. Monet, what is the relationship between the son of the devil and a real demon? Monet was startled, and then his beautiful face burst into an angel-like smile. Among the girls around Dover, Monet, who owns Snow Fruit, has the most fair skin, as white as a sacred light. Monet said softly. Young master, in Monet's heart, you are not a demon. You are Monet's king and the only god in Monet's mind. ... East Blue, an uninhabited island in a certain sea area. Advertisement. The sky was gloomy, and it seemed that a rare storm was brewing. In the port of the island, a marine warship is moored there. The Marines were ready to go, as if they were going to search for something on the island. A tall woman with a perfect figure was standing under the tree, calmly looking at the warship. Her dark and deep eyes always carry a sense of distrust, which is only for people who have experienced many promises, exploits, and finally betrayal. Years of escape also made her skin not as fair as the flowers in the greenhouse, but it was still smooth, delicate, and with a texture that other women did not have. This is a charming woman who is full of stories and can't help but find out. Her name is Nico Robin. Since the age of 8, Marine has offered a reward of 79 million Baileys, and is called the son of the devil by the world. It seems that these seamen have to be resolved. Robin thought silently in his heart. The organization she was in before, because she was discovered by the world government as hiding the son of the devil, has been wiped out by Marine, and only Robin escaped. But even if they fled to this deserted island, there was still a team of Marines who were persevering in chasing them. Fortunately, the strongest naval force in this team is only a captain, and Robin's ability is enough to solve it. Just when Robin was about to use the flower fruit's ability to stun these seamen quietly, a ship came at a very high speed from the sea in the distance. Looking at the sign on that ship, it was a pirate ship. What? Robin let out a whisper. She knew the pirate ship, which belonged to a notorious pirate in East Blue. A playful smile appeared at the corner of Robin's mouth. The original gesture of crossing his arms was changed to holding his chest. She knew that a good scene of dog biting was about to be staged.